Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Marquis of Vauban. Although they were worried about the whereabouts of the members of the Copper and Black Cross, they did not think that any organization would dare to kill their members. They just hoped that they were not affected by the battle between the god of disobedience and the god killer. When they were searching for traces near Thebes, they suddenly found a blonde young man in front of them, the King of Swords, Salvatore Toni. "Isn't this Erica? How come you were here?" Toni would never remember the names of people he was not interested in. However, Paul Bronte, the commander-in-chief of the Copper and Black Cross, had fought against the Black Prince Drake many times and had similar swordsmanship skills to him. Toni still maintained a certain interest in him, and was also interested in Erica, whose reputation was more famous than Paul's when he was young. And, if he remembered correctly, the ancestor of the Bronte family was a god killer. For a while, Toni was quite looking forward to Paul Bronte or Erica Bronte to take out the god killer legacy, which he didn't even know existed, to fight him a few times. Sword King. After seeing the Demon King, everyone present, including Erica, showed a respectful attitude. The ancestor was a godslayer, but Erica was not. She would not be so stupid as to rely on the status of her ancestor and ignore the respect due to a godslayer. "The members of our Red Copper Black Cross lost contact near here a few days ago." Erica told the Sword King Toni everything, except for some information that was not convenient to disclose. "So that's how it is." Toni's face showed a relaxed smile. "Compared to that, you'd better be careful. Vauban has also arrived in Egypt." After saying that, he glared lightly, accompanied by a bang. The ground cracked, and he disappeared on the spot. And no one present could follow the disappearance of the other person with their eyes, except for the fact that their eyes could not catch up, because of Toni's powerful action. The ground cracked, and all of them fell into the big pit that was cracked. They were naturally grateful for Toni's size, but for Toni's powerful strength, they could only show a complex look of envy. The Demon King and the God of Disobedience were powerful beings that even the Great Knight, who was almost at the peak of humanity, could not resist. With the strong power of the spell alone, they could ignore their attacks. Even though the magicians had long known that killing the gods could gain power, few magicians had succeeded in such a long time. Most of the godslayers were ordinary people who knew nothing and could not even fight. The opponent of the Copper Black Cross, the Bronze Black Cross, encountered another godslayer in the northwest of Egypt, and he witnessed the scene of the other party killing the god of disobedience. When they used magic and the spell of Silent Helium, do not disturb the sleeping queen in Aladnor, the bone-mogged, used blood as a sacrifice to try to confirm whether the missing person of the Bronze Black Cross was alive. The god of disobedience with a wolf's head and a human body suddenly appeared in front of them, saying something like "damned outsider." When they were about to kill them, Marquis Vauban appeared. The gentleman-like old man instantly transformed into a black-furred wolf man and killed the disobedient god who also had a wolf head. The speed was so fast that they could not imagine it at all. A wolf that was hid in a jar cannot compare with the Wolf King. After crushing the pottery jar with one foot, the Marquis of Vauban, who was surrounded by wildness, regained his human form, and his dark green pupils stared at them. The silver-haired girl in the lead, Liliana Kranichel, and the others all looked at the Wolf King Marquis of Vauban, who was famous for his tyranny, with tense expressions. Even though the other party was dressed like an English gentleman and was still an old man, no one would give him the impression of being gentle or easy to get along with. "You, what are you doing here?" Without spending time to deal with the power he had just obtained, Marquis of Vauban turned his attention to the Bronze Black Cross and others. Unlike the respect that the Copper Black Cross showed to the Sword King, Toni, the emotions that filled the hearts of the people present at the scene were also respect, but the source was fear. Respect derived from fear. While adjusting the white gloves he was wearing, the Marquis of Vauban asked casually. The people of the Bronze Black Cross did not dare to resist. The leader Liliana immediately responded and told the whole story. When hearing this, The Marquis of Vauban did not take it seriously at first, but suddenly, a flash of inspiration came to him, and his keen sense of smell made him detect a clue. Where did they disappear? Take me there. The words were not tough, but the plain tone was unquestionable. Liliana and others immediately took the Marquis of Vauban to the place where the Bronze Black Cross group lost contact. It was a desert gobi located dozens of kilometers behind Thebes. Between Thebes and Cairo, there were some ruins around, which looked like some kind of ruins. Where is this place? Marquis Vauban looked around, feeling somewhat confused. Although he had the power of an Egyptian god of the underworld, now two Egyptian gods of the underworld, he did not have a deep understanding of Egypt. Because of Osiris, he had a better understanding of the Egyptian underworld. He was not familiar with the stories around Thebes, but it didn't matter if he was unfamiliar. In the name of the Lord of Duat, as he whispered, Marquis Vauban's dark green eyes flashed with a radiance, and his vision changed instantly. The entire area seemed to have turned into the Duat of the underworld, and in front of him, ghosts appeared one by one. The ghosts and the buried objects attached to the gravel had completely lost consciousness and their broken souls were gradually annihilated. However, there was an area without any souls. The power of Osiris allowed him to see the life and fate of those who died in places like ancient battlefields and cemeteries, and he could also force the dead to answer questions. There was an area without any souls, not even a fragment of soul. Marquis Vauban instantly thought of the scene he had seen before on the battlefield of Toni and Amun-Ra. There was not a single soul in the surrounding area, just like the area in front. Ignoring the people of the Bronze Black Cross, Marquis Vauban activated his power in the fearful and puzzled eyes of the Bronze Black Cross people, and restrained a relatively complete spirit. Answer my question. The deceased. P.S. A book friend said that I have been unpunctual and untrustworthy recently, and have not updated on time. Sorry, it's my fault for not updating on time. I also know that since I was bitten by a dog last time, the updates have often been late this way and that way. I'm busy with work, and I don't want to just type when I get home, so I spend almost all my spare time typing. Yesterday, not this morning, I typed a chapter, and it was already 2:38. If I continued typing, I wouldn't have to go to work. This is the reason why I didn't update at noon today. During this period of time, I feel a little tired in my heart, and sometimes I don't even want to type when my hands are on the keyboard. I'll try my best to adjust it, and I'm not sure if I can update on time. Sorry, everyone. Chapter 302 Vatican. At the same time, Europe, Italy, Vatican, the city within the country, Vatican. The Vatican, located in Italy, is different from all other countries, and the form of this religious state is also different from other countries in the world. As a relic of the former papal state, the status of the Vatican is very unique among all Christian believers in the world. The Pope is the head of state of the Vatican. After being elected, he serves for life and cannot be removed. The current religious state of the Vatican is not a real religious state. At least, in the eyes of discerning people, the Vatican is just a relatively large religious organization. This country, which does not even have a barber shop, does not have its own industries and resources such as industry and agriculture. Even the soldiers are soldiers of foreign nationality, which is only symbolic. The Secretary of State who handles political affairs is also Italian. Even if Italy did not completely destroy the papal state in history, but was forced to recognize the Vatican as a religious state due to the power of France and the resistance of Christians, the Vatican, as a country within a country, cannot really have all kinds of power. In a religious sense, the Vatican is just a friendly signboard of Italy. However, this is not the case in the extraordinary world. The Vatican, a religious state, possesses enormous power. The Vatican, where countless saints gather, has the powerful force to destroy the entire Italy in an instant. In the extraordinary world, the power of the Vatican is comparable to that of a nuclear bomb. In St. Peter's Square, under the obelisk standing in the center of the square, a nun was praying devoutly. After the prayer, the nun walked into St. Peter's Basilica from the side door. The dome with a diameter of more than 40 meters makes the cathedral look wide and bright. The carefully designed lights that never go out make the church, which is already bright during the day, even more sacred. An old man is praying. This is the shepherd sought by all Catholic believers, one of the 12 disciples who followed Jesus, and the successor of St. Peter. Pope Paul. After the nun walked into the door, the old man immediately stood up, then scanned the surroundings, and after confirming that there was no one else, he immediately knelt down, crawled all the way to the nun, and kissed her shoes. My Redeemer, the Virgin Mary, our beacon, everlasting. Okay, there's nothing to say. The nun smiled, a motherly smile on her face, and brushed her palm over his head. The young nun, who looked only in her early 20s, did this to the old man who looked at least 80 years old, but there was no sense of disobedience at all. It seemed that it should be so. Do me a favor and consecrate Sister Isaiah of the Pure Cross Church. This is my glory. Sister Isaiah is the saint of the Lord's grace. No matter what mortals say, it is useless. The word of God will be justified by your words. Pope Paul said the difficult words, his face full of worship. No matter what the nun said, he would listen to her and treat her as holy. On the other side, Qin Ren, who was planning to murder another disobedient god lurking in the world, the 54th demon god Mamo, heard a piece of news. Pope Paul consecrated Sister Isaiah. Pure Cross sect. The voice coming out of the car radio and the driver's scolding because the car stalled were intertwined, making Qin Ren frown. Consecration? Consecration is something Catholic, using the name of God to convert someone or something to Catholicism. It can be consecrated for things, which is equivalent to the Buddhist consecration. It can also be consecrated for people, and the transfer of authority of clergy is also consecration. In fact, consecration is nothing strange. However, what is strange is that it is consecrated for women. Whether it is Protestantism, Catholicism or Orthodoxy, the number of women serving as clergy is almost zero, because it is against tradition. It seems that the first case was the first female clergy appointed by the Protestant Church in the Anglican Church in 1994, and then the first female bishop in 2015. Qin Ren has been a pseudo-believer for a year and has studied Christianity in depth. Although Christianity in China is different from Christianity in other regions. To ordain a woman, Qin Ren thought, Jinxi sect. P.S. Actually, writing about Christianity is very troublesome. I don't want to write about it. There are quite a lot of Christians in China, and I am afraid of being criticized. But the Pope is okay. The Pope in this chapter is not the current Pope, but Pope Paul in the 20th century. There is also something about my update. I haven't mentioned my job before. Well, I am just a game UI in a small game company. The company is not big, and overtime is common. Sometimes I even have to work as a part-time original artist. Usually I get back to my place at 6 o'clock, and it's already past 7 o'clock after I finish dinner. If I work overtime, it's not uncommon to get home at 8 o'clock. The time I can update is only during this time. In the past, my update was to code the updates for the next day at noon and at night in the evening, set a timer, and then update. Now, I can only code one chapter for the noon update at most. Sometimes I write slowly and have to stay up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I don't have a single chapter in my inventory, so I can only write now. That's why I've been unpunctual and untrustworthy in my updates recently. I don't have enough energy, and I can't do anything about it. Sorry. Chapter 303 The Last Teutonic Knights. While confirming the location of the demon god Mamo and preparing to attack him, Qin Ren also checked what kind of sect the Pure Cross sect was. It emphasizes justification by faith. The authority of the Bible is higher than that of the Pope. Believers communicate with God directly through the Bible without the need for church clergy as intermediaries. In addition, the Pure Cross sect takes the purification and salvation of the Virgin Mary in the Bible as its main doctrine, and searches for various people who are immaculate in original sin like the Virgin Mary all over the world. They are distributed all over the world. This is strange. The Lutheran Church, which is similar to Martin Luther's Reform, belongs to Protestantism and does not recognize the Pope but only the Bible. So why was it consecrated by the Pope of the Vatican? What's going on? It feels a little wrong. Virgin Mary, ISIS? According to Hual's memory, Isis transformed into the Virgin Mary and became the Virgin Mary of Christianity. Is it possible that it is related to Isis? Qin Ren couldn't help but have an idea. There are many churches that worship the Virgin Mary, but there are not many churches that worship the Virgin Mary and take purification and salvation as their main doctrine. The Pure Cross Church may be related to Isis, but inexplicably, Qin Ren felt that things seemed a bit too coincidental. This thing was a bit too coincidental. It felt like a trap. Impossible. Is Isis paying attention to him? Is she setting a trap for him? If he comes to her this time, he will fall into the trap. Does the other party know that he can obtain memories? No. Logically speaking, if the other party knows the existence of Antlion, then it is not surprising that he can obtain the power of memory from Antlion. Wait a minute. If the other party is actually calculating against Hual and Antlion, it is not impossible. However, be prepared for the worst, since Isis has known his existence and started to target him. He learned this trick from an online friend who likes strategy games. That guy has paranoia and thinks that everyone is targeting him. From this perspective, everything is easy to say. If she was targeting him, then what was her purpose? To lure him to that ordained nun Isaiah, and then ambush him? If that was the case, then it would be easy to deal with. Just don't go. Not only can't go, but also have to hide. But, is such a simple strategy really designed by Isis? Maybe Isis doesn't know? No, it can't be simple. Will the other party use this strategy? Is too simple. It can't be Isis's plan to calculate him. Use this mentality to let him relax his vigilance. Starting from the idea that Isis is targeting him, Qin Ren thought of all kinds of calculations in an instant. Then, he decided to ignore it. Let's deal with the matter of the demon god Momo first. And the location of the demon god Momo. Vienna. Half a day later, northeast of Austria, a country in southeastern Germany, southern Switzerland, and northeastern Italy, Vienna. Located on the Danube River, it is a city known as the capital of music, the former capital of the Holy Roman Empire. Qin Ren did not choose to use the extraordinary movement method to come to Vienna, but chose to take a plane. After getting off the plane, the keen people went straight to their destination. At the entrance of a cathedral that was a mixture of Gothic, Romanesque and Baroque styles, a gentle-looking priest, after seeing off the last tourist, suddenly lost his smile and turned to walk into the church. The smiles on the faces of other people working in the church also disappeared after seeing his expression. I can't stand it anymore. Receive these unbelievers every day. He took off his brimless hat with force and threw it to the ground. Bastjar, my dear brother, this is what you know. But you must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry, because the anger of man does not accomplish the righteousness of God. Don't be impatient and angry in your heart, because anger is in the bosom of fools. You must guard your heart more than anything else, because the fruits of your life come from your heart. Although his face was not very good, the other monks still advised him. However, Pastor Bastjar, who had been able to appease the people almost every time before, could not be persuaded this time. He was furious and said, "Do you really think of yourselves as monks? We are knights of the Teutonic Knights." His fist, which was bulging with blue veins, slammed hard on the wall. With a loud bang, a pit appeared on the wall. The Teutonic Knights, or the German Knights, originally known as the Crusades, the Teutonic Knights, one of the three major knightly orders, was founded in Acre in Israel. In 1809, after the military system was disbanded by Napoleon, the Teutonic Knights had completely lost their military power. In the 20th century, the Teutonic Knights had become a purely religious monastic order, and it still exists today with the nature of assistance and public welfare. However, in fact, they have never given up the glory of reviving the Teutonic Knights. As a force that worships Lutheranism, they do not listen to the proclamation of the Pope of the Vatican, especially Pastor Baggs. He is crazy about the Teutonic Knights with a strong and glorious history. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. His face relaxed, and he shook his head. "I will confess alone. You guys go first." His eyes swept across the night scenery outside the door, and he turned around and sat down on the bench in the church. The others looked at each other, then shook their heads and left the church silently. The last person even closed the door intimately. However, after everyone else left, Bags suddenly opened his eyes and turned his head to look at the closed door. Then, as if he had made a decision, he took out a badge with a black cross on a white background on the front and a sacred griffin engraved on the back from the inside of his clothes. Can the Teutonic Knights be revived? Can they restore their former glory? Pastor Bags looked at this somewhat old and weathered badge, and looked at him, as if he could imagine the glorious expedition of the Teutonic Knights to win the battle against the heretic Izir. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and walked to the entrance of the basement on the left side of the main hall of the cathedral, opened the entrance and walked down the stairs into the basement of the church. Then, what came into Pastor Bags's eyes were boxes of old age. He stared at these boxes, indifferent and speechless. The Habsburg family once ruled the Holy Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, the Archduchy of Austria, the Austrian Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Most of the emperors of the family's royal family were buried elsewhere, but their hearts were placed in large boxes of old age. As he stared at these boxes indifferently, a voice rang out from the badge in his hand. Death is inevitable. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Death Night. Hearing the voice, Bag's face showed no expression, but he just recited the contents of the book of Ezekiel. Thus says the Lord to the bones, I will cause breath to enter you, and I will put sinews on you, and make you flesh, and cover you with skin, and I will cause breath to enter you, and you will live, and you will know that I am the Lord. The breath will come from the four winds, and the breath will enter the bones, and they will live, and stand up, and become an army. Bags still repeated the contents of the book of Ezekiel devoutly. However, at this time, the voice sounded again on the badge of the Teutonic Knights. But why didn't they resurrect? Bags's sight involuntarily moved to the side. In addition to the emperor's heart of the once prosperous Habsburg royal family, the underground of St. Stephen's Cathedral also stores the bones of thousands of people who died during the Great Plague in Vienna in 1679. The plague column with a golden crown in the middle of the Vienna moat is to commemorate the dead victims. These are the bones under St. Stephen's Church now. The Lord redeemed mankind with the holy blood of Jesus, showing his grace and sinlessness between generations and eternity. But the Lord did not redeem them. They died. The voice from the badge was in direct opposition to his words. This time, Pastor Bags did not recite the Bible to talk to the badge, but took a deep breath. That is the sin of the plague. Bags stared closely at the Teutonic Knight's badge in his hand, staring at the griffin pattern on it. This griffin badge was found by him some time ago by the plague column, and it was embedded on the plague column. After he touched it with a little curiosity, it appeared in his hand and said, I finally see you, Death. At that time, Bags was horrified when he heard this. The four knights are recorded in chapter 6 of the book of Revelation, the last chapter of the New Testament of the Bible. In the prophecy of the book of Revelation in the Bible, at the end of the world, the true God Jesus Christ will come again from heaven. Jesus Christ will resurrect the dead and judge them, and the wicked will be thrown into the lake of sulfur and fire and perish forever. Sin will be destroyed forever and disappear from the world. When the judgment is made, the Lamb will unseal the 7 seals of the book and summon the knights riding white, red, black and green horses. Plague, war, famine and death will be brought to the human beings who are undergoing the final judgment, bringing the destruction of the world. The first knight is a white horse, which traditionally represents plague, conquerors, sons of the devil, and anti-Christians. The second knight rides a red horse, which traditionally represents the great Lord, symbolizing war and destruction. The third knight rides a black horse, representing famine and unfair transactions, symbolizing the imbalance of the scales. The fourth knight rides a green horse, representing pure death and endless suffering. When Bags finished speaking, a laugh came from the badge. That is the sin of you and the plague. What I saw. The next moment, the griffin pattern on the badge turned into a horse with a pale green body color, like a corpse. Inexplicably, A familiar and nostalgic feeling surged in Bag's heart. Such a feeling made Bags panic and fear. No, I am the knight of the Lord, the Lamb of the Lord. Bags could not imagine that he would be one of the 4 horsemen of the doomsday prophesied in the Bible, and this badge was his thing, and the gray-green-white horse representing death would be his mount. As for Bags's panic, the badge laughed. Yes, that's right, death is the knight of the Lord, and it is the Lord's instruction to bring destruction to mankind on the day of judgment. This is the sin of mankind. The voice was full of convincing high spirits. Man is sinful as the core concept in the Bible. Only by worshiping the Lord can there be a chance of salvation. In the hearts of every believer, such a concept is deeply rooted. After the voice in the badge sounded, it was engraved in Bags's mind like a brand. No, I'm not. Bags kept denying, refusing to believe that he had anything to do with death among the 4 horsemen of the doomsday. And the voice in the badge sounded again. Don't worry, there are still 1,000 years. This sentence made Bags calm down a little. The last judgment is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the examination of the righteous. Justified by faith, only by believing in the Lord can one be saved. The saved are the righteous. There will be an assessment of the righteous before the world receives salvation. The second stage, during the millennium, the saved saints will reign with Christ in heaven for 1,000 years. During this period, the dead will be resurrected, sinners will be judged, and sins will be eliminated. The third stage, after the millennium, Christ, the saints, and the holy city of New Jerusalem will return to the earth, accompanied by angels. According to the declaration of Pope Paul, the successor of St. Peter, the year 2000 is the millennium. Yes, that's right. There are still 1,000 years. Bags muttered to himself. However, he did not notice that he had unconsciously taken I am the death of the 4 horsemen of the doomsday as the starting point and had taken it as a fact. You still have a lot of time to deal with various things. The pale green horse on the badge said, my knight. Bags took a deep breath and looked at the badge in his hand. I want to revive the Teutonic Knights. No problem. A voice came from the badge. The millennium is coming, and your power is gradually awakening. Even now, your power is enough to judge everything. Death judgment. When the voice came from the badge, Bags could also feel that there was a power hidden in his body, as if it was a power condensed by endless suffering and death, full of a sense of destruction. I am Bags, not death. Bags emphasized again. Yes, yes, death. No, Bags, you are Bags. The pale green, corpse-like war horse shouted. Bags could not see that inside the badge, a knight wearing a duke's crown and riding a pale green griffin laughed mockingly. Ha ha ha. So funny. Sure enough, this is the best toy. Much more fun than Solomon, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Ha ha ha. However, his laughter suddenly stopped, and the griffin under his crotch made a shrill sound. What? Dandelion? What is he doing here? A puzzled voice came from under the metal mask. The relationship between the demons is generally not friendly, except for the only demon, Horus, who is not an enemy of other demons. The relationship between other demons is very bad, and the relationship between Dandelion and him is naturally not good. The only demon with whom he has a good relationship is Hual, and he only told Hual the location. Hual and Dandelion have the worst relationship, so it is impossible for him to tell Dandelion. Chapter 305. Close the door and beat the dog. The Qin people, who had already merged Antalon through the power of the Eye of Fusion and became the Duke of the Mirror, gradually approached St. Stephen's Cathedral. According to the memory of Hual, the Qin people, who had the memory of the 2 demons, also knew that the demon Mamo, who had nicknames such as Demon of Death, Death Knight, and Griffin Knight, could sense the approach of other demons like other demons. And through the spread of the vision of the sun disk, the Qin people had already determined the location of the demon Mamo. Exuding the breath of the demon Antalon, the Qin people approached each other. In the church, the demon Mamo, who noticed that Antalon was coming straight to the church, glanced at Bags, who was fooled by him as a toy, and got out of the badge. Without Bags's attention, he flew in front of the Qin people and turned into a white man. The other party half turned his body, and his green eyes looked up and down at the Qin people deeply. Dan Lin, I warn you, now, this is my territory. Dan Lin is not good at frontal combat. The most difficult thing about him is that he attacks from the side by exploring and changing other people's minds, playing with various powerful people. Mao Mo didn't know why Dan Lin came here, but since the opponent who was not good at fighting appeared directly in front of him, it would be much easier to solve the problem. However, Mao Mo, who was very clear about Dan Lin's character, also understood one thing, that is, as a person who could compete with the most cunning Huila among the 72 pillars of demons, or even slightly better, the opponent's cunning strategy was enough to make most demons afraid. Mao Mo was also, he was not sure whether Dan Lin in front of him had any conspiracy, and he didn't want to provoke him with the consequences of being targeted by Dan Lin. If you want to ask where Hual is, I don't know. Mao Mo looked at the silent Qin Ren, and his mouth was crooked. He didn't tell me where he was, although he knew that Dan Lin was feared by many demons. Mao Mo ran out so easily and said a lot of words. He looked tough, but in fact he was just a coward. The Qin Ren was still quite surprised. I'm serious, Dan Lin. The Qin Ren didn't answer, which made Mao Mo take it as a sign of disbelief. He couldn't help but speak again and emphasized, I really don't know where Hual is. Yeah, the Qin Ren nodded, but Mao Mo didn't feel relieved. He looked at the Qin Ren who was standing still, and couldn't help but ask cautiously, aren't you here to find Hual? I want you to identify a demon. The Qin Ren didn't make any move, and acted indifferent, without any hostility. Identify the devil? Mao Mo was stunned for a moment, looking at the old acquaintance in front of him with some astonishment. Hey, can't you just search the memory? Hearing this, Qin Ren did not show any expression. She has no memory. No memory? Mao Mo nodded. Where is she? Here Qin Ren swung his right hand, and Mao Mo saw a charming snake woman appear in front of him. That evil breath is undoubtedly a devil. The devil? Asmodeus. Dantlian. Hual. Wait a minute. Dantlian. When Mao Mo identified the breath of the other party, the strange and mixed breath, he reacted instantly, and couldn't help but be startled, and subconsciously wanted to retreat. But, the next moment, a gray light surged out of the charming snake woman's body, covering his body. What is your weakness? Damn it, Dantlian. You actually. Mao Mo immediately understood what happened. Dantlian was going to do it to him! While he was cursing and trying to resist by stimulating his power, he heard Dantlian say, you can't use the power of the demon god. In an instant, Mao Mo felt a familiar and huge force enveloping his body, suppressing the demon god power he was trying to stimulate. Hailer. Mao Mo reacted instantly. This was the demon god's prophetic power. Among the 72 demon god pillars, one demon god had the power to declare the future, 6 demon gods had the power of prophecy, and 2 demon gods had the power to know the future, but the powers were different. This power undoubtedly belonged to Huila. But like other powers, the power of prophecy is also determined by whether one's own strength is strong or not. With Huila's strength, it is no problem to temporarily restrict himself, but such a strong suppression force is impossible for Huila to do. Only the demon gods of the Supreme Four Pillars can do such a thing. Astroth? No, Astroth can travel into the past and the future, but he cannot predict the future, and this breath is obviously Dantlian. Dantlian has taken away the power of Hual by some means. This conjecture that shocked Mao Mo so much that he almost cried out, but, just like the power of the demon god he tried to use many times, his voice was suppressed again. You must remain silent. A huge force made him unable to make a sound at all. Enough. Qin Ren looked at Mao Mo who was tightly bound, waved his right hand, and his palm turned into a huge sand arm, holding 32 in the tightly bound demon god Mao Mo. The next moment, a sandy yellow crack opened from the center of his palm and sucked the 2 into it. Success. Qin Ren also breathed a sigh of relief. This is the center of the city, not far from Italy. We must remain as quiet and silent as possible. Mao Mo doesn't want to make any noise, and he doesn't want to either. So, we have to find a way to end the battle quietly. And the method has now succeeded. Let 32 use the puzzle light of the Sphinx to bind Mao Mo, and then use the prophetic power to reinforce the puzzle light, restrict Mao Mo's movements, and then silence him, so that he cannot break the puzzle light and prophetic power for a short time, and then, Catch Mao Mo and kill him in the Yellow Sand World. If you open the channel directly and suck Mao Mo into the Yellow Sand World, it is not impossible, but there may be accidents. If Mao Mo uses the power that makes a lot of noise, it will attract a lot of attention. But now, the battle is over quietly without any battle. Moreover, unlike here, where the incarnation of will has only sea-level power, in the Yellow Sand World, his power is geometrically times that of the incarnation. He is the ruler of the earth in the Yellow Sand World. The whole land is the source of his power. If you have to compare, his strength is A-level, and it is no problem to destroy the world. If it is not troublesome and difficult to bring people to the Yellow Sand World, many things can be done by directly dragging people to the Yellow Sand World. Chapter 306 Swallowed again. After being tied up by the Qin people and thrown into the Yellow Sand World, Mao Mo was stunned. This huge world full of yellow sand is clearly a huge world like the devil's hell and heaven. No, it is even more advanced. Mao Mo could feel that a terrifying will was paying attention to him. The next moment, the demon Mao Mo saw that the whole land rumbled up, and in the violent wind and sand, a giant tens of thousands of meters high was formed. Who are you, God of the earth, Lord of the desert? In the mind of the demon Mao Mo, the names of gods and various myths related to the earth instantly emerged. But this world? Could it be a Nordic god? This world is obviously not heaven, nor hell, and it is not a mythological world related to their 72 pillars of demons. Canaan mythology? Number. Ancient Egyptian mythology? There is only one underworld in ancient Egyptian mythology. Mythology in the West Asia region, or East Asia, Europe, Greece, Northern Europe. Wait. Mao Mo widened his eyes and looked at the giant tens of thousands of meters high. Giant? Mao Mo, who was frantically recalling all kinds of mythological knowledge, finally determined the identity of Qin Ren in the Norse mythology based on keywords such as giant, barren land, and independent world. What he saw in front of him was a giant in Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, the god King Odin killed the original giant Ymir and used his corpse to create 3 layers of universes and 9 worlds. In the kingdom of the gods where gods gather, 3 worlds are inhabited by gods and elves. In the world of the courtyard where humans multiply, 3 worlds are inhabited by dwarfs, giants, and humans. In the netherworld where the dead wander, 3 worlds are only the dead and fire giants. The 9 worlds are connected by the world tree born from the corpse of the primordial giant Ymir. Mao Mo moved his eyes, trying to find the trace of the world tree to confirm whether this is a world in Norse mythology, and the identity of this terrifying giant in front of him. The primordial giant Ymir? No, it's still the giant searcher who created the Ragnarok and held the flame magic sword. This world full of yellow sand is extremely similar to Searcher's hot country. Could it be? Searcher, what do you want to do? If you have any request, I will do it. Mao Mo chose to admit defeat without any moral integrity, and shouted to the Qin people. The Qin people, who controlled countless quicksand and gravel together and transform into giant soldiers, were a little confused when they heard the other party shout Searcher. After 2 seconds of silence, the Qin people, whose will swept through tens of thousands of thoughts every second, realized that the other party was probably talking about the fire giant Searcher, the culprit of Ragnarok in Norse mythology. This demon god Mao Mo has been in Europe for a long time. Does his thinking mode start from European mythology? The Qin people started thinking from Egypt, from Africa to the Middle East, to West Asia to East Asia, and then ran to America. After a circle, they came to Europe. After going through the names of various gods in Celtic mythology, Greek mythology, and Roman mythology, they found that they were characters in Norse mythology. To be honest, he just adhered to the supremacy of power that strong is strong, big is good, gathered quicksand and gravel to form a giant god, in order to build momentum and get more gold coins when killing Mao Mo. Who knew Mao Mo would think he was a Nordic fire giant? However, Qin Ren's slight silence made Mao Mo relieved. The other party caught him here because he was useful to him. He just needed to negotiate well. When Mao Mo had such an idea in his mind, Qin Ren slapped him directly. The huge foot condensed by quicksand and gravel, a kilometer wide, was covered with hot and dazzling flames and stepped down. With the roar of the earthquake, The ground sank, and a violent sandstorm exploded in an area of tens of thousands of meters. And Mao Mo's consciousness was completely dissipated under this foot. After Qin Ren stepped on Mao Mo to death, his eyes turned to the other side. On the outskirts of the desert city-state that looked like Shurima, where the original sun disk floated, there was a huge base with a dead atmosphere. The surging quicksand condensed to form a small half-column. Looking at this scene, Qin Ren was able to confirm that this pillar represented the pillar of Osiris, the god of the underworld, Duke of Death, can talk directly with the dead, sees the knowledge of the dead, and let the dead be reborn as a demon. The power obtained from Mao Mo made Qin Ren nod his head. The power of the demon Mao Mo is indeed related to death. After confirming that the pillar is indeed the pillar of the underworld representing death, Qin Ren sorted out Mao Mo's memory through the soul light ball, and then handed it and Huila's soul light ball to 32 for swallowing. The next moment, just like when 32 swallowed the soul light ball of the demon god Dantalin, 32 knelt respectfully to the giant Qin Ren, and then twisted her charming body, transforming from a snake girl to a four-headed giant snake. The four huge snake heads roared to the sky, making beast roars that did not sound like snakes, and the two snake heads on the left and right swallowed the two light balls in front of them into their stomachs. The next moment, as if the hunger was satisfied, 32's charming voice came out of the giant snake's mouth. Then, from the far left and right sides of her body, a flesh bud protruded. As Purgatory and Qin Ren watched silently, the two flesh buds suddenly grew larger and protruded. On the left, a huge snake head that was pale green, like a corpse, and exuded a disgusting rotten smell broke out of the flesh, and the blood and flesh condensed by the evil black power burst and flew around. The snake head that grew on the right side was slender and full of vicissitudes. The slightly hunched snake head and the indifferent eyes made it look like a wise man. After the snake head came out, the evil black wound condensed and healed again. Moreover, soon after the two snake heads came out, the dark evil power also enveloped the two snake heads. It was visible to the naked eye that her thick and long body turned black again, like a terrifying demon god. The 6 snake heads roared and roared at the sky. However, in front of the giant god soldiers tens of thousands of meters high, they were still insignificant. After venting her excitement, she crawled respectfully to Qin Ren and returned to the posture of a snake woman. Qin Ren was staring at the extra skills in the 32 information column after swallowing the demon god. 8. Demon god middle. Huila. The only passive skill, demon god prophecy, can directly distort reality through language to achieve the goal. The only passive skill, distorted emotions, can distort and change the target's emotions. The only passive skill, demon god wisdom, can map out the corresponding historical knowledge according to what you want. 9. Demon god Mao Mo. The only passive skill, demon rebirth, allows the dead to be reborn as a demon. The only passive skill, skull thief, can talk to the dead and take away their knowledge. The only passive skill, demon god wisdom, can map out the corresponding knowledge of life and death and philosophy according to what you want. Chapter 307, Marquis Vauban's new plan. Egypt. After traveling around Egypt, killing the funeral god Domtef and seizing power, Marquis Vauban was chewing on the information he had obtained. A hawk-headed human, Horus, turned into a dazzling light. Did he become the sun god, and then turned into a giant black snake? Then, a huge, dark golden, bird-like creature appeared, emitting dazzling light. Is it the sun god again? Marquis Vauban was a little confused. Horus is a collection of pharaohs and the embodiment of royal power. In different regions, there are images that merge with the sun god or other gods. Perhaps Horus has the power to turn into other gods. Marquis Vauban leaned back in his chair, his hands clasped in front of his chest, his dark green eyes shining with thought. Shu, the god of wind, Amun-Ra, the god of the sun. Marquis Vauban's eyes showed a trace of doubt. He could find relevant information about the fusion with other gods, but the incarnation of a black giant snake. Have Horus and Apep ever merged before? His eyes were full of doubt. Maybe it's a legend in a small place. When Set killed Osiris and ruled Upper and Lower Egypt, Horus was demonized by Set and promoted as the incarnation of Apep. Marquis Vauban made his own guess. So, Horus can be incarnated as Apep, the giant bird emitting dazzling light should be Amun-Ra. Because Horus broke away from the myth and did something, Amun-Ra did not come, and after killing Horus, he returned to the myth again. Then why did the soul disappear? Marquis Vauban thought, but unfortunately, although he could kill the god of disobedience, his curse power was not enough for him to enslave the god of disobedience. His spell power can be said to be the most among the god's layers, but compared to the gods of disobedience, his spell power strength can only be said to be equal to that of ordinary gods of disobedience. It's just that because he has many powers, he can have an advantage when facing most gods of disobedience. He knows very well that if a god of disobedience who can restrain him appears, he will still fail. For example, the sun god Amun-Ra. Most of his powers are related to darkness, the underworld, and evil. He is a weak hand to the sun and sacred powers. Even if he himself has the means to deal with the sun attribute, he obtained the power of the greedy wolf pack from the god of disobedience Apolloikeus, one of the incarnations of the sun god Apollo in Greek mythology. He can't transform himself into a giant wolf with a body length of more than 50 meters, and can summon countless greedy giant wolves with huge bodies comparable to horses and agile speed that can chase cars. As an incarnation of Apollo, Apolloikeus inherited some of the properties of Apollo himself. Tolerance to the sun attribute. When he uses the power of the greedy wolf pack, he can gain resistance to attacks of the solar attribute, and the greedy giant wolf he summons also has resistance. However, he is only resistant to light, not fire. The power of the sun god in each myth is different. In some myths, the sun god is not only light, but also involves aspects such as sacred and fire, just like in Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, people believe that the sun chariot carrying fire blocks, that is, the sun, only provides heat but not light. The dazzling light actually comes from the mane of the mythical beast pulling the sun chariot. The sun in the Nordic world only has the attribute of heat but not light. But Apollo, the sun god, to be precise, he should be called the god of light. This power only has resistance to light, not sacred resistance, and even no resistance to fire. No, to be precise, it can be resistant to everything generated by light. If it is a fire generated by the high temperature generated by the power of sunlight, it can be resisted, but if it is not, but other flames, it cannot be resisted. Divine attribute attacks are effective and powerful for him. Moreover, the power of the greedy wolf pack is powerful but also has a price. Transformation type powers will continuously consume spell power. Once facing a strong opponent, there will be problems in a protracted battle. When dealing with a disobedient god or a god slayer with the sun attribute who is weaker than himself or equal to himself, he can use the power of the greedy wolf pack with confidence. However, if facing a disobedient god who is stronger than himself, he needs to resolve the battle as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer the time drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for him. However, when facing a stronger opponent, he must be calmer, carefully identify the opponent's identity, find weaknesses and break through, which is in conflict with ending the battle as soon as possible. Now that Amun-Ra has returned to the myth, this matter feels both a pity and a relief for him. Unfortunately, if he gets the power of Amun-Ra, he can completely make up for his weaknesses and gain powerful attack power. His current power, in terms of use, can be said to be mostly used against the army and against a large number of enemies. What he wanted was the power that could be used when he fought one-on-one with the powerful god of disobedience and Godslayer. It was a pity that he could not fight to his heart's content. He was relieved because he did not have to worry about failure, and he did not have to be distracted to guard against Tony, and he did not have to worry about whether he would come to rob again. The last time he summoned Siegfried, he wanted to get the power from Siegfried that could greatly increase his defense, but Tony took it away, which he regarded as a shame. He did not want to do it again. Once he faced Amun-Ra, he would definitely have to deal with it with all his strength. At that time, he could not care about Tony, and he might be snatched away by Tony again. He wanted to get Amun-Ra's power because Tony, the power of the steel divine protection, was afraid of fire and heat. If he could get Amun-Ra's power, it would be much easier for him to deal with Tony. However, Marquis Vauban frowned slightly and muttered to himself, Sunday. Sun in his mind, a flash of inspiration came. Norse mythology. Fenrir in Norse mythology. Fenrir, who can devour everything, including the sun. The first power he obtained was the greedy wolf pack. With his wolfish nature, he had a great affinity with wolves. This time when he came to Egypt, he also gained the power of the wolf god of funeral. If he could get the power of Fenrir, Marquis Vauban's dark green eyes lit up, and his wildness suddenly erupted. We need to plan it well. I remember that Norse mythology originated from Northern Europe, the Scandinavian peninsula. From my territory, through Austria, you can get to Sweden. A new plan emerged in Marquis Vauban's mind. At the same time, in Vienna, Austria, the Qin people who had just killed the demon god Malmo suddenly felt a sense of inexplicable danger for some reason. It seemed that there was some danger approaching. P.S. If I remember correctly, the Marquis in the first part of God Slayer was indeed unable to resist fire. The Marquis who appeared in the second part seemed to be able to resist fire. The Marquis in the second part killed Fenrir and got the power to devour the sun, and was able to devour fire? I don't know if I remembered it wrongly. If you remember, please leave me a message. Otherwise, just leave it like this. Just regard it as my own magic modification. Chapter 308 Millennium Scale. The sudden sense of crisis made Qin Ren take it seriously. But he didn't know where the sense of crisis came from. The power he obtained from the demon god Hual, Sand Island Prophet, was a prophecy, not a foreknowledge. The power of prophecy is not uncommon among the 72 pillars of demons. The 40th demon god Lemur, the 51st demon god Bairam, the 55th demon god Orobus, the 56th demon god Grimanli, and the 64th demon god Halis all have the power of prophecy. However, there are not many who have the power of foreknowledge. The third demon god Voshk has both the power of declaration, which is similar to the power of prophecy, and the power of foreknowledge of the past and the future. The demon god Amon, who has the same name as the Egyptian sun god Amon, can know the past and the future. The 29th demon god Stroth can travel through the past and the future. The 22nd demon god Inbos, the 28th demon god Bil, and the 33rd demon god Jayabo who have knowledge of the past and the future. To be precise, only the 3rd demon god Voshk and the 7th demon god Amon can predict the past and the future. However, whether in the memory of Hual, Dantalin, or Momo, the 2 demon gods Voshra and Amon did not violate the myth and did not descend. It was the Duke of Baron, the demon god Stroth, who seemed to have descended into the world. In some legends, Astroth tempted humans to be lazy and was the source of laziness. But there is also a saying that he is one of the 7 deadly sins and a symbol of anger. Astroth traveled through the past and the future, and now he has no idea in which time. Qin Ren shook his head, gave up the idea of looking for Astroth, and turned to other aspects. Lost Sun Disk. The sun disk taken from the previous world has not been opened yet. As for why he thought of the sun disk, because, among the 7,000-year artifacts, one is related to predicting the future. The 1,000-year jewelry, the forehead ornament with a shape similar to the Eye of Horus, can make people see the future. Because of the sudden sense of crisis, Qin Ren thought of the 1,000-year jewelry and the sun disk that he had not opened yet. After finding a deserted place and using a shameful spell to open the sun disk, something appeared. A dark gold metal scale, about 40 centimeters wide and 30 centimeters high, a small balance scale, millennium scale, can measure the good and evil of the target, and merge the two things on the scale to form a more powerful item. Millennium scale. What a pity, if I could get the millennium jewelry, but can it measure good and evil? Qin Ren held the scale and set his target on himself. In an instant, a fist-sized white ball of light appeared on the tray on the right, filled with a soothing gentle glow. The ball of light flew out of the tray of the scale and floated in front of Qin Ren. It seems that I am still quite kind. However, at this time, the tray on the left sizzled, and black balls of light, like thunder and tide, emerged one after another. The black ball of light was the size of a basketball as soon as it appeared. The evil, frightening brutality, and all kinds of negative emotions emerged, like a collection of all negative emotions. and the evil black light ball expanded rapidly after it appeared. In the blink of an eye, it exceeded 2 meters, and the scale was instantly tilted. The left side sank directly, and the right side was lifted up high. Wait a minute, is it wrong? Although Qin Ren thought he was not a good person, he couldn't be that bad. In the yellow sand world, tens of thousands of soul light balls floated quietly in the boundless desert. At most, they killed tens of thousands of people. Well, it was pretty bad, but this was too exaggerated. Looking at the black light ball that was still expanding, and the millennium scale that seemed to be loaded to the limit, Qin Ren couldn't help but dissipate the mana injected into the millennium scale. Watching the 2 light balls disappear and the millennium scale regain balance, Qin Ren was indifferent and speechless. Try the snake and purgatory. The millennium scale in his hand disappeared, and the millennium scale suddenly emerged in the yellow sand world. Snake. Qin Ren's voice, as vast as the earth, rang out, and the 6-headed giant snake relief on the demon pillar emerged with black light, and a charming snake woman suddenly emerged. Father God, 32 respectfully prostrated himself to Qin Ren, waiting for his orders. Qin Ren did not speak, but controlled the quicksand to roll the millennium scale to float in front of 32, injecting magic power. The next moment, the millennium scale tilted again, and a black ball of light emerged. The same evil and palpitating sense of evil, like a collection of all negative emotions. However, the ball of light was only the size of a basketball. Compared with the millennium scale, it was quite large, but it was much smaller than when Qin Ren measured himself, 1/10,000th, no, to be precise. His own ball of light was not fully displayed. When the millennium scale reached its limit, it was 1/10,000th. However, Qin Ren discovered another thing, that is, 32 only had a black ball of light, and there was no white on the right side of the scale. Does this mean that there is no good in the extreme evil? After a brief thought, Qin called out to purgatory again. Dragon. On the pillar of the sun, which was emitting a scorching glow, the relief of a golden dragon flickered, and a giant dragon with a golden body emerged. My lord. Like the most loyal servant, the dragon closed its eyes, lowered its head, and waited for orders. Qin used the power of the millennium scale to measure good and evil on purgatory. The next moment, a ball of light appeared on both sides of the millennium scale. A dark ball of light and a pure white ball of light, but it was very small. It can be said that it was less than the size of a thumb, and the sizes were exactly the same. The scale did not tilt at all. How can this be said? Purgatory's memory had been modified by him several times, and his personality was completely set according to Qin's imagination of the gods, a god who despised mortals and was high above. According to Purgatory's current 3 views, the good and evil of mortals are meaningless to it. Is this result relatively normal? Neither of them was a good test subject, and the results seemed a little wrong. Afterwards, Qin Ren prepared to test the fusion ability again. If you want to fuse 2 items, can you try to fuse the equipment? Qin Ren flipped through the inventory and selected 2 items, Armor of Thorns, and Plate of the Dead. The Armor of Thorns and the Plate of the Dead instantly shrank and flew to the 2 sides of the scale. As Qin Ren injected power into the millennium scale, a ray of light emerged on the dark golden scale. The next moment, a new equipment that had never been seen before but was somewhat familiar appeared in front of Qin Ren. Armor of the Ghostly Corpse, G, plus 50% G health plus 90% G armor. Unique passive, Ghostly Coil. When moving, it provides additional movement speed. When approaching the target, it consumes the movement bonus and slows down the target. Unique passive, Counterattack of the Dead Corpse. When hit, it will return magic damage to the attacker, apply a short-term severe injury effect to the attacker, and slow down the target. Chapter 309 Anubis. While the Qin people were happily integrating equipment using the Millennium Scale, Egypt, in the west of Thebes, inside the pyramid destroyed by the Qin people, a huge scale was carved on the collapsed wall. On the tray on the left of the scale, a feather was placed. The god with a wolf head and a human body was half kneeling under the scale, placing a heart on the tray on the right. When the Qin people took out the Millennium Scale from the lost sun disk, the god on the mural suddenly solidified and walked out of the mural. The dark jackal head looked around and then turned to the north. The second scale of Mot has appeared. The quiet and steady voice was filled with a sense of death, like the roar of the dead. After speaking, he stretched out his right hand, grabbed the mural, and grabbed a scale from the mural. The scale was gold and black, and the shape was simple. On the tray on the left, a feather was placed. The huge scale on the mural disappeared. He stretched out his left hand again, and the long staff in the mural was also taken out by him. False gods need to be purged. A hint of murderous intent emerged in the dark wolf eyes. After saying that, he looked around, waved his left hand, and the scepter in his hand shone with a ray of light, and the dark soil surged. The ground then cracked, and mummies tore through the ground and crawled out from under the ground. On the other side, by the Nile River, in the destroyed ruins of Thebes, an old white crocodile emerged amid the surging water. As his head turned to the west, a hint of complex meaning emerged in his old and turbid eyes, and he couldn't help but muttered, "Anubis." As soon as he finished speaking, a dark door appeared beside him, and Anubis walked out. "Sebek, tell me, where is that evil god?" The voice full of death made Sebek feel as if he had entered the underworld at Duat. The old white crocodile looked at Anubis's dark body and couldn't help but whispered, "Do you remember what the Lord of Strength said about outsiders?" Hearing his words, Anubis's jackal head didn't show any expression at first, but the next moment, he seemed to think of something impossible. A voice like the cry of the dead and the howl of a jackal sounded, and a humanized look of horror appeared on his face. "This world is not the only one. Just like the crow that the Lord of Strength met 10,000 years ago, he doesn't belong here." Looking at this half-brother, Sebek's old face showed a smile. He and Anubis' father are both Set, but the fact is different from the rumor that he is also the son of Nephthys. He is actually the son of Nt, the goddess of war, hunting and water. He was born before Set killed Osiris and became the king of the earth. After Set killed Osiris and became the king of the earth, he, like Anubis and Nephthys, chose to help Horus fight against his father Set until Horus succeeded and took the throne of the king of the earth. The culprit of all this is actually his mother Nt. His mother Nt is actually an incarnation of the primordial water nun. Set, the Lord of Strength, killed Osiris, which violated the will of the gods. Nt is the culprit of the fall of Set, the Lord of Strength. And all this is what the Lord of Strength told him when Horus killed him. And this is also the reason why he will not obey the myth and become a disobedient god in the world. He wants to find the outsider who has the power to easily suppress the Egyptian gods in the mouth of the Lord of Strength. Now, he has found it. The desert power that seemed like the Lord of Strength, the wind power that was like Shu, the rain of corruption that was like Tefnut, and the power drawn from the earth that was like Jeb. There was also a light body that was similar to the god King Ra, but with subtle differences. If he had just made a mistake, it would be fine, but even Ra's twin brother Apep thought that he was Ra. Sebek did not think that he was a godslayer who had obtained the power of other mythological gods. Horus also showed anger, thinking that the other party was an evil god disguised as himself. The other party was like another collection of Egyptian mythology, but the other party's power seemed a little weak. This was also the reason why Sebek hesitated and did not accept the invitation immediately. The other party did not belong here and was an outsider, there was no doubt about it, but he did not feel that the other party had the power to suppress the Egyptian gods. The other party only won a narrow victory against the incomplete Horus. Maybe he just disdained to use it, but no matter what, the other party was not the existence described by the Lord of Strength. Sebek was still considering whether to agree. And now, Anubis appeared here, which meant that he had shown some power related to the Egyptian gods. Sebek's pale crocodile mouth opened and closed. "What did he show that made you so angry?" Anubis looked at the gloating smile on his brother's face, and his dark jackal head seemed to be even darker. However, Anubis, who was shaken by Sebek's words, still made an explanation. He raised the black and gold scales in his hand, which flashed from time to time, and seemed to be a little illusory. Amid was excited and confused. It felt another scale. Mot didn't have a second scale. Mot, the daughter of Ra, the goddess of truth and justice, was judged by the gods of the underworld after death. The scale in his hand was the only scale of the goddess Mot. On one end of the scale was the heart of the deceased, and on the other end was a statue of Mata or her symbolic ostrich feather as a weight. If the heart is lighter or equal to the feather, it means the deceased is innocent; otherwise, it means the deceased is guilty, and the sacred beast Amit in the lake of fire will devour the deceased and destroy him forever. After Anubis sensed the abnormality of Amit and asked the goddess Mot, he immediately left the myth and came to the world. This matter must be solved, otherwise, both Mot and he will have problems. There is only one and only one scale of judgment. Upon hearing this, Sebek laughed. Why didn't Ra, Shu, Tefnut, and Jub take any action? What are you talking about? Hearing his words, Anubis was stunned, and then startled. His pupils shrank suddenly. You mean? Don't show hostility, Anubis. Upon hearing this, Sebek's pale crocodile mouth closed slightly. Believe me, what the Lord of Power said is not a false bluff before death. After speaking, his body turned into a dark blue liquid and dissipated on the spot, leaving only Anubis with a complicated expression. Chapter 310 Equipment Fusion. After the Qin people got the Millennium Scale, they had a lot of fun, constantly fusing various equipment. Item, Seraph, G, Armor, plus 50% G attack power, plus 45% G health plus 70% G armor plus 50% G spell power plus 120% G mana. Unique passive, Seraph's Embrace, provides spell power equivalent to 3% of maximum mana, returns 25% of mana cost. Unique passive, Angel in Flame, when receiving fatal damage, it will stagnate for 4 seconds and then resurrect on the spot. When resurrected, it will release ranged fire damage indiscriminately, forming a shield equivalent to 15% of mana. After resurrection, it will restore 50% G health and 30% G maximum mana. Cooling time, 300 seconds. Seraph's Embrace plus Sunfire Cloak plus Guardian Angel. Well, how should I put it? The passive burning of the Sunfire Cloak disappeared and became an additional effect when resurrected. It feels like a loss-making stacking, but in fact, Sunfire Cape and Guardian Angel are armors. He can only wear one, the others are actually redundant. In fact, it is a profit. And Seraph's Embrace is a staff. Qin Ren originally just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect it to be successful. However, judging from the general numerical changes, after the fusion, some attributes will be lost. For example, the passive burning of Sunfire Cape disappears, and Seraph's Embrace used to be plus 140% mana, but now it has become 120%. In other words, you must be careful when fusion to avoid losing the necessary attributes and skills. In this case, you have to selectively match the fusion. Item, Frozen Crown, G, Crown, plus 80% G spell power plus 40% G health plus 55% G magic resistance plus 100% G health regeneration plus 100% G basic mana regeneration. Unique passive, Eternal Frost. When taking damage, restore 15% of the damage value of mana, and reduce the subsequent magic damage of the same skill or effect. When you spend mana, you will recover 20% of the health spent, up to 2.5% of the health per cast. Unique active, Frost Aura, when active, consumes additional mana, slows all nearby enemy targets by 20%, and increases magic damage taken by the slowed targets by 10%. Shurima Rhapsody plus Adaptive Helmet plus Abyssal Mask plus Ryan's Eye Scepter. If the previous fusion result is very good, then I don't know if this fusion effect is good or bad. The Ice Scepter can make all active damage skills have a slowing effect, but now it is gone, but a range slowing effect, and it is not attached to the skills. Item, Severed Greaves, G, Shoes, plus 10% G spell penetration plus 10% G armor penetration plus 30% G attack power plus 30% G armor plus 30% G health plus 100% G health regen plus 30% G movement speed. Unique active, Tearing Charge, provides an additional plus 40% G movement speed, causes physical damage to enemy targets during the duration, and will also apply a slashing effect to the target, reducing the target's armor by 4% each time, lasting 6 seconds. Unique passive, Killing Frenzy. When killing a target, the duration of stun, slow, taunt, fear, silence, blind, deformation and imprisonment is reduced by 30%, and provides an additional plus 10% G movement speed, and slows the movement speed of surrounding targets by 75% G. Lasting, Mage Boots plus Phantom Spirit plus Black Cutter plus Glory of Justice plus Mercury Boots. The third combined item made Qin people very happy. The attribute increase and reduction were very small, most of them were superimposed on the original, and the effects of the two skills were very good. The cutting effect brought by the first skill is not very useful to Qin Ren. After all, he is a mage, but the acceleration is still quite strong. The second one is very good. However, it seems to be suitable for dealing with large groups of enemies. After killing someone, it can provide extra toughness and movement speed and slow down surrounding targets. More suitable for a tank rushing into a crowd. In general, Qin Ren likes these two extra accelerations. Item, Lich Ring, G, Ring, plus 15% G spell power plus 30% G attack power plus 60% G mana plus 10% G movement speed. Unique passive, Rage Potion, plus 30% healing effect from potions. When using a potion, it provides additional attack power for the duration, equivalent to 2% of your maximum mana. Unique passive, Frost Smash, attack and displacement will be charged. When it reaches 100%, the next attack increases 50% additional damage and slows the target by 30% for 6 seconds. Unique passive, Dark Blade, after killing the target, add a layer of darkness, providing an additional plus 3% spell power and plus 3% attack, up to 10 layers. Each time a target is killed, 1 layer is provided, and all are lost after death. Dark Seal plus Lich Bane plus Demon Cut plus Storm Cut plus Frost Hammer. The effect feels okay, right? The better one is Frost Smash, which can increase 50% additional damage, but need to be upgraded. Item, Portable Launcher, G, Belt, plus 50% G attack power plus 50% G spell power plus 30% G magic resistance plus 30% G health. Unique active, Emergency Braking, consume a braking ammunition, remove a control effect on the body, and sprint forward a distance. Unique active, Light of Redemption, consume a braking ammunition, summon a beam of redemption within a G range, and heal yourself and friendly forces by 10% G health. The only active one, Artillery Support, consume 1 braking ammunition to summon a burning beam within the G level range, burning all targets within the range. Targets with G level or above will cause true damage equal to 10% of their maximum health, and targets with G level or below will cause 25% additional damage. A total of 7, each with a cooldown of 40 seconds. Hextech Belt plus Redemption plus Mercury Scimitar. This fusion effect is amazing. 7 ammunition can be used for 3 purposes: to release displacement, to heal, and to cause damage. It is quite flexible to use. It's just a bit inconsistent. After all, there are all kinds of frozen crowns, ghost armor, lich rings, slit greaves, etc. on the body, and suddenly there is a high-tech style equipment. Item, Banshee Skeleton, G, Necklace, plus 80% G level spell power plus 60% G level magic resistance plus 30% G level health plus 50% G level attack power. The only passive one, Corrosion Veil, gain a spell shield that can resist 1 skill. If no damage is taken within 40 seconds, the shield will refresh. When the shield is broken, it will burn the target for 3 seconds, causing 1.5% of G's health and magic damage per second. Unique passive, Banshee's Embrace. If your health is below 30%, this item will create a shield for you before that can absorb up to 35% of G's magic damage in 3 seconds. Cooldown time, 90 seconds. Unique passive, Last Stand. When Banshee's Embrace is triggered, every 1 second, it provides 30% G's attack power, 10% G's spell life steal, and 10% G's life steal, which lasts until you leave the battle. Maximum 50% Banshee's Veil plus Liandry's Dormant plus Maw of Malmortius. The effect is pretty good. The shield of Banshee's Veil is perfectly inherited, but it's a pity that the corrosion effect of Liandry's Dormant is superimposed on the shield. It would be better if it was superimposed on Last Stand, but it's okay. P.S. The effect of Millennium Scale is originally equivalent to the fusion in UGIO. There are too many equipments before, and you probably can't see them all, so I integrated them. By the way, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Let's Fall in Love, Bugs. Qin people integrated all the equipment, however, there is no handheld weapon. Why? Because most of the artifacts of the Millennium Artifacts are handheld props. The Millennium Cone, also known as the Millennium Building Block, is an inverted pyramid pendant that can be hung around the neck, that is, an ornament. The Millennium Key, a cross with a ring handle, is commonly known as a key, but in fact, its shape is the ankh, the Egyptian symbol of life. The Millennium Staff, a short-handled scepter. The Millennium Scale, a small balance scale. The Millennium Jewelry, forehead ornaments, can also be worn around the neck. The Millennium Wisdom Wheel, a pendant shaped like a stick-drawn sun, similar to the shape of a keyring, hangs around the neck. The Millennium Eye, a metal eyeball, you have to dig out your own eyes and install them before you can use them. Of these 7 things, Qin people now have 3, the Millennium Key, the Millennium Staff, and the Millennium Scale. These 3 things are all handheld. He has to reserve space for these equipment. In addition, there is the Demon God's Holy Grail. The effect of the Demon God's Holy Grail is very strong, not to mention other things. The skill of demonized resurrection is very important. The equipment he fused was not repeated. The Crown of Frozen Earth, the Severed Greaves, the Littering, the Portable Launcher, and the Scorching Angel. No, if the experimental armor of the dead corpse is included, it is indeed repeated. However, Qin Ren had a bold idea. That is to fuse the equipment with the Millennium Artifact, fuse the Soul Light Sphere with the equipment, fuse the creature with the equipment. However, Qin Ren did not intend to really do that, at least not in the short term, because he did not know what the consequences of fusing the Millennium Artifact would be. Similarly, he was not sure about the effects of the Demon Holy Grail transformed from the Harmony Holy Grail and the Sun Wheel Corpse transformed from the Ascension Remnants. For the sake of safety, he would not do it for the time being. Back to business. Now, the strange sense of danger disappeared after he left Vienna and Austria. After opening the Lost Sun Disk and getting the Millennium Scale, Qin Ren was certainly not stupid enough to change his clothes on the spot, but found another place to start fusing. After the sense of crisis disappeared, Qin Ren thought about it. The reason was probably that there was something big going on in Vienna. First, according to the common routine of ACG, something is sealed in such and such. Malmo, the coward, deceived the Teutonic Knights by saying that the other party was the death of one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. There was a plague outbreak in Vienna in the 17th century. Maybe the plague of one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is sealed here? Second, according to the idea of the persecuted person, the enemy has discovered his location. An enemy went to Vienna to find him, and there is a possibility that he will be chased after him. It is very likely that it is a disobedient god like Isis. Third, according to the idea of the opportunist, there may be some treasures in Vienna. Treasures in Vienna? Regarding Vienna, apart from being the resident of the modern Teutonic Knights, he is not very clear. At most, he can only think of musicians such as Haydn, Mozart and Beethoven. Could it be that a certain artifact of the god of music appeared in the world, attracting the god-killer and the god of disobedience? Fourth, according to Qin Ren's own leisurely and lazy personality, his first thought was that a god-killer or a god of disobedience passed by or approached, and it was not aimed at him. After all, there are 4 god-slayers in Europe: Marquis Waban, Black Prince Drake, and Sword King Tony. If Isis is still in the world, the possibility is quite high in Europe, which is occupied by Catholicism, Protestantism, and Orthodoxy. This place is not big, but there are many strong people. Malmo didn't want to fight with others before. When facing Malmo, who was weaker than his will incarnation. Qin people still chose to design the other party. He used several means to pack Mao Mo into the yellow sand world before closing the door and beating the dog. This is the reason. The Balkan Peninsula in Eastern Europe, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, North Macedonia, Greece, and Turkey are all the territories of Marquis Waban. Italy is the territory of the Sword King. Britain is the territory of Black Prince Drake. Most of Europe is divided and ruled by godslayers. But Qin people don't want to care so much. If he has time, he will of course continue to collect gold coins and certificates. However, this time, he planned to adopt the method he used in the Hero Academy world before, to cause large-scale damage through area attacks, collect gold coins in batches, and then use Ike's skill time and space break to go back to the previous time to get free vouchers and gold coins. In a sense, no one died, and he also got vouchers and gold coins, so everyone was happy, and Qin Ren had an idea that he wanted to verify. At the same time, Vienna. The full moon's light fell on the earth and shone on the entrance to the basement of the Vienna church. Pastor Bags looked at the knight's emblem, which was no longer moving, and the griffin pattern disappeared, and felt uneasy and weird. But at this moment, he suddenly saw the moonlight as white as river water on the ground in front of him. Then, a cave-like hole appeared on the ground, and then a head popped out of the hole. It was a girl, who looked about 20 years old, with blue eyes, black hair, and a slightly yellow skin color. It was obviously not a European race, a bit like the people in Russia and Ukraine. She wore a strange white robe similar to a nun's uniform, and there was a crescent-shaped ornament on her forehead. The girl stuck her head out and saw him in shock. She did not act like him, but showed some natural doubts. "Sir, where is this place?" "St. Stephen's Cathedral. Don't you know?" Bags answered blankly. For some reason, his heart started beating uncontrollably. After Bags answered, he became more confused, and shook his head in frustration after thinking, which made his heart stop slightly, as if he had done something wrong. "My lord, how could there be such a beautiful woman? Is she an angel sent by the Lord to the world?" However, one thing suddenly emerged in his mind. Cave, underground? No, how could such a beautiful and pure person be a demon? Absolutely not. Yes, that's right, she was just a person who strayed into a magician's cave and a fairy's cave. Yes, she was also confused. No, this is the Lord's miracle. It is the Lord's miracle. She was chosen by the Lord. In his heart, Bags frantically defended this beautiful and pure girl whom he met for the first time. He finally realized how foolish it was to sneer at the other members of the Knight's talk of love. Bags fell in love. Chapter 312. Zeus and Zeres are both. Greenwich, southeast of London, south bank of the Thames, England. In this industrial area full of various vacuum cleaners, machinery, textiles and other factories, a seemingly ordinary building gathered a large group of people, the Council of Sages. It is also called the Greenwich Council of Sages, the most powerful magician organization in the world. Apart from the power of the God Slayer, no other organization can be compared with them. They are absolutely and undoubtedly the strongest organization. Moreover, they have had many direct conflicts with the Black Prince Drake, who has Britain as his territory. The Great Knight and the Great Magician can be said to be the strongest among ordinary humans. The only ones who are stronger than them are the title knights and title magicians with personal titles such as Red Demon. This time, 20 great magicians, even 3 of whom have won the title and are much stronger than ordinary great magicians, gathered together and held a meeting. Whereas the team sent to Jerusalem to find the Dead Sea Scrolls, their reply 10 days ago was that they were planning to make a last-ditch effort. No news yet? No more news has been received. They might have been destroyed. There is news that a suspicious explosion occurred in the northwest of Jerusalem. The media called it a waste mine explosion. It should be the paladins who wiped them out. What a pity. Bordeaux and his men have just entered the rank of great magicians. In another 20 years, they might even have their own titles. The Templar Knights are too powerful. Not only do they have a unique divine spell system, they are also equipped with many thermal weapons. It is extremely dangerous to steal the Dead Sea Scrolls. The plan for the Dead Sea Scrolls has failed, so what should we do? Continue to search for the Holy Grail that has been searched for hundreds of years. Holy Grail. Holy Grail. Can we really pin our hopes on the Holy Grail? The Black Prince Alexander Gascoigne. He is also pursuing the Holy Grail, and has developed a royal factory, trying to use his power to suppress the scope of activities of our Council of Sages. Then what should we do? Ever since we took advantage of the weakness of his power Black Thunder last time, when he used the power to increase his speed, he lost the powerful magical endurance that his body originally possessed. We made him suffer a loss through magic, and he has not appeared in front of us again. We need to prepare the teleportation magic. Once we encounter a head-on battle with him, we must immediately gather everyone. This is ready. A great magician handed 19 items containing abundant magical power to others. This is an item forged in imitation of the legend of the Knights of the Round Table. It allows us to communicate with others on an equal footing. When everyone agrees, we can use this to gather together. The other great magicians took the things and examined them carefully. The power of the Black Prince is not only the speed comparable to thunder, but also the ability to summon the Faceless Queen and release strange greed. Not only does he have power, he is also learning magic, although he is not as powerful as Wolf King Wulban, who can obtain the Demon Book of All Magic. Over time, his power will grow to a strength that we cannot suppress at all. Yes, that's right, we need the God Slayers of our Council of Sages, and we need a powerful force that can confront the God Slayers head-on. While they were fiercely discussing what other methods and ideas to expand, a great magician who was good at perception magic suddenly looked shocked and his face changed suddenly. Everyone, outside, there is a powerful force surging. Hearing this, all the great magicians present, whether they believed it or not, immediately responded. Teleportation magic, shield magic, protective props. Different personalities made this group of great magicians use different strategies. However, no matter who it was, they all saw from the window that strange existence floating outside the window, which seemed to be a gathering of pure energy. It was like a magical creature made up of energy, with pieces of stone with chains surging around it and inside its body. What a surging power! The great magicians all widened their eyes. That energy was different from the spell power they used. However, whether they knew what kind of energy it was, they could feel the hugeness and terror of the thunder-like power. Black Prince Drake killed the new god of disobedience? No, it felt like thunder. Could it be a new ability he developed? The messenger angel in Christian mythology, the angel who did not fall from obedience, Remiel, had dealt with Drake for so long, and the Council of Sages knew this power very well. But, it felt a little bit specious. But in any case, the person who came was not friendly. Alexander Gascoigne, what are you doing here? A grumpy bearded magician clenched his fists and shouted loudly. Outside the window, the Qin people who used the power of the Ram of Thebes to manipulate the black gravel to disguise the magic sarcophagus and transformed into Zerat were quite speechless. Alexander Gascoigne. Black Prince Drake? Did this group of people think he was Black Prince Drake? Qin Ren originally wanted to show off by answering Zerat mercifully when the other party sincerely asked who are you? But wait, the momentum value is rising very fast. Qin Ren suddenly found that his momentum value had risen to 80. Thinking about it carefully, it seems to be the case. Even if it shows a threat, the mild threat of the name of the God Slayer seems to be louder than that of a stranger who has never shown muscles. The momentum value is also higher. In this case, you can't blame me, Black Prince. Please lend me your power. Oh, no. Isn't it better to use the name of the god of disobedience than the Black Prince? In the case of thunder, Zeus and Zerat are both S, which is almost the same foolish mortal. Qin Ren spread his voice, and the vast voice with echoes exploded in the sky like thunder. Mortals who blaspheme the gods, the king of the gods will punish you. The king of the gods? Thunder? Zeus? They were naturally familiar with Greek mythology, and even many magic spells use the name of Zeus. The great magicians couldn't help but reveal expressions of horror. Supreme King of Heaven, Father of the Sky, we don't have. The bearded magician was also confused by the accusation, and subconsciously defended himself. However, the next moment, They saw that the human figure who was like thunder and whose face could not be seen clearly raised his hands, and terrifying power gathered in his hands, and then smashed down. P.S. I finally got it out. I slept in a daze. I went to bed at around 10 or 11 in the morning and woke up at around 6 in the afternoon. My eyes were so tired. Chapter 313. Re-entering the long river of time. The surging dark blue arcane energy transformed from mana instantly spread into a pulse beam as wide as 100 meters, annihilating an area of 1,000 meters. Qin Ren still used the power of the Ram of Thebes to transform mana into thunder, and then shot out the energy in the form of arcane pulses. The surging thunder pulse, with its huge power, directly evaporated this large area. And in Qin Ren's inventory, there were also thousands of yellow sandbags of different levels. And the moment he did this, Qin Ren immediately activated the time and space rupture. Mana surged, and Qin Ren's will incarnation was wrapped in a wonderful shield transformed from mana. Then, he once again felt the illusory long river that runs through ancient and modern times through the incarnation of will. But this time, there was a problem. It was different from the long river of time in the world of Hero Academy, where he was the only one. He was not the only one in this wonderful, illusory long river. There were many people and non-humans. The most eye-catching one is a tall giant, with a naked upper body, an old face and a big beard. It is a giant in the literal sense. The other party is at the other end of the long river of time, at a certain time period in the past. Giant, time. The Qin people immediately thought of the giant god related to time. In fact, many people are familiar with this god. The father of Zeus, the second generation of the gods in Greek mythology, Kronos, is a combination of the creativity and destructive power of time. He can devour all things and destroy them. Then, because of the prophecy of you will be overthrown by your children, he eats every one of his children, but Zeus finally escapes. This child-eating god-king is also overthrown by Zeus, the filial son. When he saw him appear, the giant just opened his eyes and looked at him, and then closed his eyes without interest. And next to the giant, that is, Kronos, there is a little man with a pair of huge wings on his back and a blue body color. He is closing his eyes and seems to be sleeping. No, to be precise, it is about the same size as a normal person, but compared to that giant, it looks like a small person. Literally, with wings. Qin Ren subconsciously thought of angels, because of the Middle East. He was more familiar with angels in Christian culture. In ancient China, the sun, moon, gold, wood, water, fire, and earth were used to form the 7 stars, and things like Sunday and Saturn were created. The 7 angels in the Bible represent the 7 days when God created the world. The 7 days of the week are different. This is what the Chinese saying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday means. If we are talking about the God of time, are all 7 angels? There was no such thing as an angel of time in the Bible, but in modern comics and works, someone has created 9 angels, one of which is a time angel called Q. Number. That guy with wings is floating next to the giant, which means he is from the same period. And I always feel that they look a bit alike, because Greek mythology is widely spread. He knows those familiar ones, but he is not very clear about the minor things that are not related to desert culture. Downstream of the giant and the winged man, there are 3 goddesses dancing. The first one is a young and beautiful artistic woman carrying a treasure bowl and holding a torch and a scepter. The second one is a woman holding a mallet and a serious expression. The third one is behind the first 2 bodies, and Qin Ren can't see it clearly. The giant noticed the existence of Qin Ren, but the 3 goddesses did not see Qin Ren, or they couldn't even see other people. However, although it was the first time to see them, their Greek costumes similar to that of the giant were undoubtedly the 3 sisters of the hoary goddesses of time. 3 of the seeds sown by Zeus seemed to say that the rotation of time was the dance of these 3 goddesses. In addition to these, there are various people or non-humans with different costumes and different positions in the long river of time. These are all gods related to time or gods in charge of time in different myths. Qin Ren even saw the costumes of the Celestial Empire among them. The most famous gods of time in the Celestial Empire are probably the four guardians in Taoism and the Black Emperors Yuanxu who arrange the order of the sun, moon and stars in the pre-Qin mythology, right? However, very few of them noticed the Qin people, although they are related to the power of time, just like there are many demons who can predict the future but cannot perceive the future. In the myths of different regions, the functions of the gods of time are different, and the same god even has different myths. For example, the powers of the three goddesses of time are the alternation of spring, summer and autumn and order, justice and peace, which are similar to the four seasons gods of the Celestial Empire. The spring god Zhumang, the autumn god Rushao, the winter god Zhuanming, and the summer god Zhurong, but they do not have the power to perceive the future or even travel through time. Oh, travel through time. Qin people immediately shifted their attention to other places and began to look for Ishtroth. He did not forget the demon god Ishtroth. Of course, the weaker the various gods of time, the easier they are to bully. The strength of the 72 demons is only close to but not at the city level, so picking on the weak is of course the best approach. Unfortunately, there are no gods related to time in Egyptian mythology. The only one related to time is the description of the sun god Ra riding a sun boat every day. In 4 seconds, tens of thousands of thoughts surged. Finally, in the last second before the end of the time shield, Qin Ren found the existence of Ishtroth, the male humanoid monster with a black appearance and a foul smell of poisonous gas, holding a demon-like hell dragon with a huge wings and a long tail in his right hand. It is very similar to the rumored Duke of Baron Ishtroth, so I guess it is right. The other party was in front of him and did not notice his existence. When Qin Ren turned his eyes to him, the other party's figure was constantly moving along the long river of time towards the future. Shuttle through time. It is indeed Ishtroth, but how to attract his attention? Yes, I got it. Qin Ren's magic power was agitated, triggering the power of the three demons, releasing the strong breath of the demons. When the time shield disappeared and the incarnation of Will left the long river of time and returned to 4 seconds ago, Qin Ren noticed that the dark demon Duke seemed to sense the breath of power and turned his head to look at the place where he disappeared. However, before the other party turned his head, Qin Ren had already left the long river of time and space and disappeared. Huala, Mao Mo and Dan Lin, the demon Duke turned his head and his eyes wandered around, but he couldn't find the whereabouts of these three familiar people. Chapter 314 Ishtroth and Fright. However, Ishtroth did not find any of Antlion, Hual or Momo, and Antlion and Momo did not have the power related to time. Only Hual had the ability to contact him, but like the relationship between most of the demons of hell, he and Hual did not have a good relationship. However, he did not think that the clear feeling just now was an illusion. A glimmer of light appeared in his eyes full of evil, and the power of time travel surged again, allowing him to escape from the long river of time. 2030, Europe, Germany. The familiar scene came into view again. The technological world developed by humans, the ancient and magical mystery faded more and more, and Ishtroth did not feel anything about the changes in the world, because, how is it possible? When he tried to contact Hual to inquire about the situation, he found that Hual had disappeared. He could not contact him. What happened in this timeline? A trace of doubt appeared on Ishtroth's dark face. Momo and Antlion, Hual and him did not have a good relationship, but Hual, who had the power of prophecy, had contacted him many times. Ishtroth still remembered the last time he was asked to go back to the mythological era, back to the past, to find the whereabouts of Isis. Who is Isis? The ancestor of magic, a person closely related to the birth of many demons, and most importantly, Isis knew his name. He didn't want to offend Isis, so he naturally didn't agree. Could it be that Isis has found this timeline? The long river of time is uncertain. Even if he has the power to travel through time, he can't accurately find a timeline in the long river of time where countless timelines coexist. He can only roughly determine the range based on experience. Only when you can travel through time can you know the horror of time. For those who don't have the power of time, it is mysterious. But for those who have the power of time, it is also vast, broad and extremely complex. In the long river of time, there are countless timelines, and these timelines are intertwined and messy bundles. He has lived for thousands of years, but he has only entered the same timeline twice. Almost every time, he will enter a new timeline. The number of new timelines that can be extended from a line is almost infinite. He even found a timeline in which he died because he chose to help Hual find the trace of Isis, and then was killed by Isis. He couldn't enter that timeline at all, nor did he dare to enter, because, in that timeline, he was already dead. As long as he entered that timeline, the result of death would bind him, and the power of the long river of time would kill him. Ashrath is very sensible. Things that should not be done should not be done. It is a terrifying thing to be able to meet your own death. After failing to contact Hual, he tried to contact other demons who were not from mythology and descended into the world on this timeline, trying to understand the situation. However, he found something unusual again. In this timeline, none of his colleagues, the demons from the 72 pillars of demon mythology, were there. How is it possible? Ashrath traveled through countless timelines and saw some worlds where the power of the god-slayers was relatively strong and there were very few gods of disobedience. However, even in such worlds, there were not many fewer demons who were good at hiding and plotting in secret. On the contrary, because there were fewer other gods of disobedience, the 72 pillars of demons and other demons from mythology descended more from mythology. What happened on this timeline? Could it be the God Slayer? One or two demons like Hual disappeared, and Ashrath might suspect Isis. But with the abnormality of the 72 pillars of demons, Ashrath's suspicion of Isis would decrease. He traveled through many timelines and knew very well that in most timelines, Isis's plan did not succeed. Even if it succeeded, it was concentrated in a time node about thousands of years later. He had never seen Isis who successfully ruled the world at this time node. However, he was also very cautious. In order to figure out what happened on this line, he needed to disguise himself. A month passed. Ashrath was stunned. Not only the gods of disobedience, but also the god-slayers in this time were gone. Not one was left. The god-slayers and gods of disobedience that he was familiar with all disappeared. He traveled around the Balkan Peninsula, Britain, Italy, East Asia, and the Americas and Europe. Not a single god-killer was left, only the newly descended gods of disobedience. What happened on this timeline? After traveling through countless timelines, Ashrath's curiosity grew stronger and stronger. There was nothing he hadn't seen before, and he just wanted to see more new things to satisfy his growing curiosity. However, in the current situation, there is no doubt that this timeline is quite dangerous. Even the gods of disobedience and god-slayers could not resist the disaster. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered something. That is, there were several timelines that he dared not enter. At first, he thought that they were the timelines where he died before. However, later he found that those timelines felt a little different from other timelines. Those timelines were not where he died, but they were not allowed to be touched from the beginning. He was deeply impressed by the experience at that time. With a power stronger than his power, those timelines were blocked and no one could enter. Wait a minute. Ashrath's eyes suddenly widened. A trace of fear appeared on his dark face. This timeline is a branch extending from those timelines. A sense of horror instantly enveloped his body. Why didn't he feel that terrifying power on this timeline? He didn't even notice this. The creepy feeling made Ashrath immediately use his power to try to escape from this timeline. The familiar feeling of being immersed in the wonderful power of time came to his mind again. However, Ashrath did not feel comfortable because of this. On the contrary, after entering the long river of time again, there was only fear in his heart. He suddenly found that the terrifying power in his memory enveloped all the timelines he was in and around him. He was trapped in these timelines. The eyes that had not shown panic for thousands of years showed horror. What kind of existence has such a terrifying power? Wrapping these timelines is a dark chaotic power that almost made his power lose stability at a glance. Chapter 315 White Witch. Qin Ren didn't know what happened to Ashrath. When he used the time-space rupture for the second time and went back 4 seconds in the long river of time, he didn't find Ashrath again in the long river of time. Using the same trick, Qin Ren slaughtered the entire Greenwich district and harvested a lot of supplies. Watching from afar the headquarters of the Council of Sages, which was intact without any damage, Qin Ren opened all the yellow sandbags he got. Bounty: 624,731 yellow sand gold coins. G-level certificates: 1,167, F-level certificates: 120, E-level certificates: 20, D-level certificates: 1. There are really a lot of troops in the Greenwich district. G-level certificates are mostly ordinary people who are particularly strong among the civilians he killed, or magician apprentices, trainee knights and the like. F-level certificates represent the backbone forces. 120. He opened 287 E-level bags, which is less than half in total, and 16 of the 20 were obtained from the 23 yellow sandbags obtained this time, which is much higher than the previous probability, close to 70%. Converted into D-level vouchers, that is 5. The harvest is not bad, especially the more than 20 D-level bags. When in Egypt, there were only 5 D-level masters in the tiers of the Nile, but there are 23 here in the headquarters of the Council of Sages. This strength gap is not ordinary. Of course, for the god of disobedience, it is still too weak. In contrast, there is no performance in the mythology, just the 4 sons of Canopus who are personified as storage tanks for the organs of the dead. This can be said to be the weakest god of disobedience. Although the level is only D level, but 1D is D, 9D is also D. These extreme human masters who have spent decades to reach the limit are completely incomparable to the god of disobedience. However, they do have a lot of wonderful magic that can cause various troubles to the god of disobedience. Moreover, after long-term preparation, with dozens of great magicians and knights, it might be possible to kill the god of disobedience of the level of the 4 sons of Canopus. However, this is only judging from the conventional gap, and the result is hard to say. Knowing the weakness of the god of disobedience, if the operation is done well, it is not impossible to kill an elephant with a snake. In addition to power, the difference between the god of disobedience and the great magicians is the difference in the amount of spell power. Qin Ren wandered around Greenwich leisurely like an ordinary person, without any consciousness of being an executioner. He was browsing the memories of those great magicians. There was an unexpected gain: the Holy Grail. The magic Holy Grail. Since the 16th century, there have been 2 wars in the magic world in Europe. 2 wars for the Holy Grail. Qin Ren was very interested in the Holy Grail before and wanted to find out where the magic Holy Grail was. However, the Council of Sages did not know where the Holy Grail was, but the Council of Sages had a lot of information about the Holy Grail. For Qin Ren, an outsider who knew who had the magic Holy Grail, this information was enough. Meanwhile, in the north of London, Hampstead, this is where the wealthy gather. To be precise, it is the residence of the wealthy, one of the 3 most high-end residential areas in London. Along with Westminster, Kensington and Chelsea, it has many of the most expensive homes in London. There are more wealthy people here than anywhere else in the UK. In this area, there is a mansion that is similar to a castle manor, which looks like a castle manor left by a great noble in the Middle Ages. A vast courtyard and various luxurious configurations. However, in Hampstead, there are many residential complexes with such magnificent designs, with more than 60 former residences of celebrities, so this building will not stand out. However, except for one girl, everyone else in the castle manor is a servant. There is a reason for this. Alice Louise of Navarre, daughter of the Duke of Goding, the former Speaker of the Greenwich Sage Council and now a special advisor, is sitting at a small white table in the courtyard drinking tea. She looks to be in her 20s, with fair skin, shining blonde hair, and a graceful posture. The knitted dress and trousers were covered with a white coat, and with her gentle and graceful movements, she naturally exuded an aristocratic temperament. Her common name was Princess Alice, not only because she was the daughter of a duke, but also because she was a powerful great magician. She was 24 years old now, but she became a great magician a long time ago, much earlier than most people who entered the rank of great magician, at an age that could be called a genius or a demon. This was the title she had. It's a bit strange. She blinked, and a hint of doubt appeared in her beautiful pupils. "Your Highness, what's wrong with you?" Her doubts made the maid who was waiting for her orders at the side couldn't help but investigate. When Her Highness was free, she would happily enjoy the scenery and drink afternoon tea in the courtyard under the sun, just like now. Hearing this, Alice smiled and said, "Nothing, I'm just worried about whether it will rain or thunder." After saying this, when the maid looked up at the sky, trying to confirm from the sky whether it was really raining and thundering, she continued, "Can you make me some more tea, and prepare some snacks and bring them over?" I know, Your Highness." Her Highness Alice rarely eats outside, and it is a special case to enjoy the scenery while drinking afternoon tea like today. The maid who has been with her for quite a while can only nod and say yes, with doubts in her heart, and turn around and leave. Not long after she left, a black cat appeared in the courtyard. "Long time no see, Miss Zola. I have asked the maid to make you tea and snacks, so please wait a moment." Hearing this, the black cat jumped onto the table. "Don't be nosy, Alice, have you heard about what happened in Austria?" "Austria?" Alice tilted her head slightly, then lifted the teacup from the cup holder and took a sip. "Your spirit clone can actually eat." Seeing her action, the black cat showed human surprise on his face. "It's not a clone." Alice just smiled, but the black cat could finally feel the weakness emerging from Alice. "It's rare that the white witch can actually make her real body appear. I'm not like you, Miss Liculeza. There's nothing wrong with your original body, but you always use your familiar as a clone." Hearing this, Alice couldn't help but snort, like a young girl. This black cat, this uninvited guest, is the Witch of Sardinia. P.S. In fact, the original title is White Witch Princess, but no matter how I think about it, I feel that the Japanese title of witch is so awkward to hang on a European's head. But this is also the norm in various ACG works in Japan. In Japanese works of magic fantasy, such as the Slime one, all kinds of ghosts have come out. Just like some domestic novelists, when they write Western fantasy, there will be dragons, Chinese dragons, fox demons and the like. Well, anyway, I don't like this kind of neither east nor west feeling. Chapter 316, Walking Disaster. Madame Aisha, that king appeared in Vienna, and her power is out of control again. The Teutonic Knights have become her subordinates and support her as a saint. Black Cat's tone was a little helpless. "Madame Aisha?" Hearing this, Alice couldn't help but be shocked. Madame Aisha is the most special godslayer among the 6 demon kings now. She was originally just a low-caste servant from India. Hundreds of years ago, she obtained the power of Persephone, the queen of the underworld in Greek mythology. Her personality is different from that of the demon kings like Marquis Vauban, who have a desire for power and domination. This female godslayer who lives in Alexandria, Egypt, has no desire to rule, and only exists in seclusion. However, the biggest problem is that Madame Aisha's personality is quite natural, and her power is often activated unconsciously, which is the so-called out of control. The power of the Queen of the Underworld can call for eternal spring and infinite winter. The former can heal, while the latter can make the winter wind blow against the enemy and create huge cracks on the ground. With the cold that can freeze even the bone marrow, it can kill all enemies who do not have any underworld divinity or power. In the records of the Council of Sages, there is a case where the power of the person was inadvertently out of control, causing the winter of a certain country to come early and last for more than half a year. If I remember correctly, the Teutonic Knights should have been an organization of the Christian knights that had disarmed before. There is no doubt that this is another power of Lady Aisha, the Queen's curse. The power usurped from Ishtar, the goddess of war, sex, love, and fertility in Babylonian mythology. Lady Aisha can easily charm others. She can gain the favor of others with this power, and even a group of fanatics who are willing to sacrifice their lives for Lady Aisha can be easily established. However, because Lady Aisha is easily out of control and unconscious, it is easy to cause big trouble. This is not the first time that this has happened. There was even a mythical beast that was charmed by Lady Aisha before. Lady Aisha, because of another power, went into the fairy cave and disappeared, which made the mythical beast go crazy and finally wreak havoc on the earth. causing a lot of disasters. Lady Aisha is a walking natural disaster, the most gentle but the most harmful god killer. Wherever she goes, there will be trouble. The most important thing is that it is not the intentional behavior of Lady Aisha, who has a natural personality. I think you need to deal with it. Black Cat said, Austria is not far from Italy. Moreover, Italy is the territory of Sword King Tony. If the two demon kings get together, something might go wrong. If the other party uses the power of the Queen of the Underworld, then Sardinia where she is may also be affected. Why did she appear in Vienna? Is it the corridor of the fairy? As the former speaker of the Council of Sages, Alice is naturally very familiar with the affairs of the god killers. According to the records of the Council of Sages, this power is different from other powers because it is activated unconsciously by Lady Aisha's personality. This power is completely uncontrollable. It can appear at any time and in any situation, especially when the moon is full. A fairy hole may appear in any place and suck Lady Aisha in. In the records of the Council of Sages, Lady Aisha often appears inexplicably in various places. However, this situation has not happened in the past 100 years. After Lady Aisha traveled to China and killed a disobedient god, she stabilized and lived in seclusion in Alexandria, Egypt. The magicians of the Council of Sages judged that Lady Aisha had mastered the power. In the Council of Sages, the attitude towards Lady Aisha is quite friendly, because the power and action philosophy of that person are completely different from the other 6 people. In addition, the Council of Sages also made a hypothesis that if she could open the fairy corridor in the right form, it would not be impossible to gather all the god killers and lock them up in another world, except for the demon king John Pluto Smith who possesses the power of the fairy king. What is the situation now? Is it out of control again because of some situation? Or does Lady Aisha want to travel again? Lady Aisha likes to travel around the world, but 100 years ago, Lady Aisha should have traveled all over the world. Alice lowered her head and thought, and the Sardinian witch who was watching Alice through the black cat did not remain silent. Alice, how are you going to deal with the Council of Sages? Hearing this, Alice came back to her senses. Although the actual purpose of the Council of Sages is to fight against the god killer, they naturally would not do so in public. In public, their disguise is idle and nosy seekers, and they go back to deal with the disasters caused by the god killer. Under such performance, most organizations have a good impression and attitude towards the Council of Sages. I'll ask the council. Alice answered immediately. Maybe the council has already responded. Maybe. The witch from Sardinia Island did not expect the efficiency of the Council of Sages. She only had a certain degree of trust in Princess Alice, who was much younger than her but had a way of handling things. Alice just smiled. The real purpose of the Council of Sages was to collect information about the God Slayer for use in the confrontation, so they would pay attention to dealing with the disaster caused by the God Slayer. Aftermath. Sorry, the Council of Sages did not care. Don't worry, Miss Zora, we will deal with this matter as soon as possible. Alice turned her head and glanced at the maid who was approaching with tea and snacks, and smiled at the black cat. I recently got some methods of making snacks. I asked the chef to try a few times. Maybe it will suit your taste. It's a pity that cats can't eat sweets. The Sardinian witch controlled the black cat to raise its front legs, then turned around and jumped off the table. Alice, I have other things to deal with, so I'll leave first. It's really good. The magic that possesses the familiar. Alice blinked her beautiful eyes, condensed the black cat disappearing in the distance, and then turned her eyes to the other side. You actually waited until others left before appearing. I didn't expect you to have such a gentlemanly demeanor, Drake. As she spoke, a bright lightning fell from the sky and landed in front of the table, and condensed into a nobleman in a dark gray jacket, one of the God Slayers, Black Prince Drake, the enemy of the Council of Sages and the leader of the royal factory. His cold and unfriendly eyes swept over Alice, and after confirming that she was the real person, he said, Guinevere is missing. She is not in Litania. Chapter 317 Mother Earth. The Magic Holy Grail. Qin Ren thought, this thing seems to be in Guinevere's hands at present. That's right, it's in the hands of King Arthur's wife Guinevere. In the world of God Slayer, there is a setting. That is the dragon snake god and the steel hero, The legend of heroes slaying dragons and snakes in various mythological stories. In God Slayer, the dragon snake god and the steel hero are absolutely opposite, and the steel hero has a restraining effect on the dragon snake god. The Earth Mother, also known as the Mother of the Earth or the Mother Goddess, refers to the goddess who specializes in fertility and symbolizes the grace of the earth. In this category, not all goddesses related to the earth can be called the Earth Mother. In myths around the world, the gods who can be classified as the Earth Mother are all masters of powerful matriarchy in their mythological systems, such as Gaia, Tiamat, Hutunayangniang, Nuwa, etc., even the Chinese Earth Mother. Some feminists believe that the change in the status of these Earth Mothers in early religions was when the patriarchal society replaced the matriarchal society, and men used the uglification of the images of these female gods to achieve the transition to let male gods replace the highest position. In the setting of the god killer, various dragons and snakes are the uglified images of the Earth Mother. The steel hero is refined and extracted from the concept of the hero god. Just like the name, it alludes to the smelting process of steel. The hero god is basically the steel hero, but there are many steel heroes who are not hero gods. Let me give you an example. First, there are legends of becoming stronger through forging related elements. There are legends of being trapped in flames, such as Achilles being burned by the divine fire and Sun Wukong being forged by furnace fire. Second, as a second choice, other forging elements are also okay, but not as good as flame forging, such as Siegfried bathing in dragon blood and Achilles soaking in the water of the underworld to become immortal. Anyway, making your body stronger like steel smelting through some difficult experience is an element of the steel hero. Third, a lot of battles and experiences, after many difficulties, defeated many monsters, and were trained, such as Hercules completed the 12 trials, Sun Wukong went through 981 difficulties, etc. Fourth, slaughtering dragons and snakes, or conquering the earth. For example, Siegfried killed the dragon, because in the world of God Slayer, dragons and snakes are the ugly images of the Earth Mother Goddess. Slaying dragons and snakes equals conquering the earth, symbolizing the transformation from matriarchal society to patriarchal society. The ancestors of most myths are mother goddesses, and later there are basically various gods and kings. With this attribute, it can also be regarded as a kind of steel hero. Fifth, the fourth is the second best, obtaining weapons or power from characters such as the Earth Mother Goddess or dragons and snakes. A certain hero got a weapon from a certain Earth Mother Goddess, and a certain hero got a certain weapon from a dead dragon and snake. Among these 5 elements, as long as there is one, it is considered a steel hero. But the purity of the steel hero, that is, whether the elements are strong or not, and how many they have, this concept is quite interesting. In addition to dragons and snakes, the setting of steel heroes was proposed by a scholar who studies mythology, and God Slayer applied this setting and added an element of slaughtering dragons and snakes, which is the 4th and 5th. Why mention Guinevere and steel heroes? Because Guinevere is set as the god ancestor in God Slayer. The god ancestor is the posture of the fallen Earth Mother God after being defeated by the steel hero god and pushed off the throne of God. Guinevere is the descendant of the snake god and a witch who surpasses human wisdom. If there is a chance, the Qin people want to get the magic Holy Grail in Guinevere's hand. The Earth Mother gods in the God Slayer world are all large experience babies, but unfortunately there are no Earth Mother gods in Egypt. The earliest gods in Egypt are also male gods, and Geb, the god who controls the earth, is also a male god. As for the Earth Mother god, there really is no such thing. The power to create all things was completed by Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the god of the sky. There is no operation like Gaia who can give birth to children whenever she wants, and Thief Gil's willful operation. If we have to find someone to be the Earth Mother, then Isis is the only one. After all, she is the one who is in charge of life and fertility. Wait, Isis? Qin Ren suddenly stopped. In the world of the god killer, the status of various gods is different from that in reality. If, just if, Isis is the Earth Mother in Egyptian mythology in this world, this doesn't make sense. In the memories of Hule and Horus, There is no statement that Isis is the Earth Mother. Maybe he is just overthinking it. Qin Ren shook his head and prepared to follow the memories of the magicians of the Council of Sages to slaughter the British Magician Organization and earn gold coins and certificates. However, while he was browsing the memories of the magicians and preparing to leave, he found something in their memories that surprised him. The Teutonic Knights worship Lady Aisha as a saint? No way. If Qin Ren remembered correctly, Lady Aisha had the charm power of Ishtar. Ishtar has become a frequent guest in many mythological works. After all, her title as the Great Whore of Babylon is still very loud. Ishtar was called Inat in Canaan and Cambir in Rome. In medieval magic books, she was portrayed by sorcerers as the fallen angel Ashtaroth, and in the Bible, she was defined as the Great Whore of Babylon. At the same time, the Babylonians' praises of Ishtar were appropriated by the authors of the Old Testament of the Bible and became words of praise for God. Well, the angels and demons of Christianity are basically characters from other myths, beautified in the negative and vilified in the positive, using common means. Should I go and see what happened? Qin Ren thought hesitantly. Forget it. That woman is a walking disaster, and Qin Ren is not sure that he can get anything good from her. At least save up 100,000 gold coins and vouchers first, and stack the magic power to sea level. Now his magic power is still more than 5D. On the other side, Austria, a man in slightly strange clothes was walking on the street with an indifferent look. He was talking to himself as he walked. Is he here or not? Sebek didn't have to lie to me. Or has he left? At this moment, he suddenly stopped and twitched his nose. This smell, the power of death. Is there the god of the underworld here? P.S. Damn it, I have been looking for information for 3 hours, but I still don't know if it is correct. If there are any discrepancies, just treat it as a magic modification. It's so tiring to write fan fiction. I will definitely not touch fan fiction in the next book. I want to swear, if you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Lady Aisha. In this not-so-large office, there are several rows of tables and chairs. The table is full of miscellaneous items, but in the office, a middle-aged man dressed as a priest is arranging them, tidying them up very neatly and meticulously. This is not a table for publishing or other busy copywriting work, but a church. A small mountain of various related documents, various books, including the Bible and other Christian works. This is the headquarters of the Teutonic Knights in Vienna, Austria. It is already evening, and Gamble, who is responsible for handling various church tourism-related matters, is still in the office. However, turning his eyes to the surroundings and looking at this office, this member of the Teutonic Knights does not have a good face. Something happened to the Teutonic Knights. 2 days ago, the senior members of the Teutonic Knights, headed by Bastger, inexplicably supported a girl who should be Asian to become a saint, saying that she was the girl chosen by the Lord. The girl chosen by the Lord? An Asian, an Indian, a yellow person. Say he is racist? No. He does not discriminate against humans. The Bible says that Adam and Eve had fair skin, and humans, as their descendants, should also have fair skin. Those with dark skin are hybrids tainted by the devil, and yellow people are also hybrids. Only white people are real humans. How could a yellow-skinned woman be a saint chosen by the Lord and without original sin? Gamble's face was filled with determination. Because of his strong, firm and correct belief, he was also the only one in the Teutonic Knights who was not seduced by the power of Lady Aisha. Moreover, seeing that other members of the Teutonic Knights were madly supporting the strange woman, an idea also emerged in his mind. That woman is the devil. The devil bewitched the Lord's knights, bewitched the Lord's lamb. She wants to destroy the holiness of the Holy Church. His mouth kept moving, and his eyes became more and more fanatical. This is the Lord's trial. We must destroy the devil. Unlike other people who more or less know or even are in the supernatural world, Gamble is just an ordinary person with firm faith. He suddenly remembered what Baggs often said to himself. The Teutonic Knights will rise again and revive. And his eyes lit up. That's right, after purifying the demons, the Teutonic Knights will rise again, to kill the demons, and purify the demons. The Teutonic Knights can use this as an opportunity to revive again. At that moment, Gamble decided to act as soon as possible. After preparing some things, he rushed to Mrs. Aisha's temporary residence. Mrs. Aisha was a little distressed. She was naturally not a fool, and she naturally discovered that those gentlemen who were very good to her were affected by her power. Compared to being treated as a saint, she liked and was more accustomed to being a servant. When India was a colony of the British Empire in the past, Aisha, who was alone, had worked as a maid in the mansion of British nobles. Her lively and natural personality now has not changed much. However, her lively personality, which has not changed at all, was repeatedly stopped when facing the people who were fascinated by her, the group of fanatics who surrounded her like her. A few days ago, when the moon was full, she was in Japan. Because her wallet was missing, she worked in a maid cafe and became a popular maid. At that time, she was practicing the words she learned from other maids during the day in the closed cafe, where she lived after get off work. Please chant the spell with me. Make it delicious. Make it delicious while pouring ketchup on the omelet rice. She chanted the spell. Although it felt different from the spells of the word spirits she had come into contact with, she still worked hard to earn money for the plane ticket to Alexandria. Although she occasionally fell while delivering food, dropped utensils and broke dishes, etc., which reduced her salary and even required her to work longer hours, it was still smooth sailing. However, by chance, it was a full moon that day. Then her power was activated. In an instant, she fell into a fairy cave. When she came to her senses and looked for the exit, she suddenly found that she was no longer in Japan, but in another place, Vienna. She had been here for a trip, and at that time, she had seen a tenor singer named Beethoven. This power was neither good nor bad for her. She had been to more than 30 countries she had never been to passively because of this power. Until she went to China, she was hunted by the Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva, and she had no choice but to kill the Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva. As a low-caste Indian, she was not devout in her faith and did not know Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva. In India, some Buddhas with very low status became very high in China, while some Buddhas with very high status became obscure after going to China, being recommended as a saint. Mrs. Aisha was quite panicked. In India, what kind of existence a saint is still very deep in her memory. Even after so many years, she naturally did not want to do the kind of work that most women were unwilling to do. However, she also knew that the Teutonic Knights were Christian, not Hindu. This saint was also different from the saints of Hinduism, but the inherent impression still made her unwilling to take on this title. She wanted to escape. This natural god-killer made a decision. However, at this moment, the huge magical power obtained from killing many disobedient gods has enhanced her keen perception, allowing her to notice that a man is approaching quietly from outside the door. Lady Aisha tilted her head slightly in confusion. It was so late. What else did those gentlemen want to see her for? Is it time to decide my title again? Lady Aisha recalled the various titles proposed by the priests headed by Mr. Baggs during the day with great distress. Something like Saint Aisha. Thinking of this, Aisha also walked to the door and prepared to welcome him. However, just as she placed her hands on the door, she suddenly felt a sense of malice. The power obtained from the Greek queen of the underworld allowed her to foresee death, whether it was someone else's or her own. Compared with other godslayers, her way of action was very strange, but her perception of crisis was also the strongest. Without any hesitation, she immediately activated the grace of the Lucky One obtained from Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva, and at the same time activated the power of the Cave Queen, and a fairy cave appeared at her feet in an instant. At the same time, a bullet pierced through the door and flew past where she was just now. Chapter 319 Guinevere. After the bullet penetrated the gate, it immediately exploded. Rich mana burst out from the bullet. Terrifying flames and brilliance burst out in the next moment. The heart-pounding shockwave instantly blasted the buildings of the Teutonic Knights' headquarters into pieces. The members of the knights who lived there were also killed in this terrifying explosion. The strong flesh and blood that had been trained were easily torn into pieces like paper models under this burst of mana. Moreover, this destructive force not only destroyed the Teutonic Knights' headquarters, but also instantly invaded the surrounding area of nearly 1 kilometer. A large number of houses were directly destroyed in this impact. Such a huge impact also caught the attention of Anubis, who was wandering in Vienna and looking for kin people. To be precise, it was the fact that a large number of dead people appeared in an instant that made Anubis, the god of death, react. In an instant, Anubis, who looked like a black man, restored his humanoid posture with a jackal head, and his dead eyes glowed with light. In an instant, his vision changed. Houses, walls, and various partitions disappeared from sight in an instant. Countless dazed souls emerged from afar, and the kind he had sensed before, who also held the power of life and death, suddenly disappeared. This situation made Anubis a little confused, but he did not make any moves, because he felt a familiar breath, the breath of Isis. After carefully sensing it, he shook his head again. No, Isis is not here. Although it is related to Isis, Isis herself is not here. Anubis has very complicated feelings about this acquaintance of his. As the ancestor of magic and the most powerful magic goddess in Egypt, Anubis is not clear about how ambitious his acquaintance is. Unlike the myths of other regions, the Egyptian earth god is not a female god, and naturally there is no so-called earth mother goddess. However, Isis is the daughter of the dual gods of the earth god Geb and the sky god Nut, who hold the power of creation. She has the power of life and reproduction and has a status similar to that of the earth mother goddess. She was not the Egyptian goddess of the earth, but she wanted the position of the goddess of the earth. Kill the supreme god Amun-Ra, usurp the position of a god king from Amun-Ra, and become the goddess of the earth. A trace of fear flashed in Anubis's jackal eyes. The reason why Isis became the god of disobedience was because she did not get the position of the goddess of the earth in the myth. Anubis knew very well that Isis became the god of disobedience. Anubis also knew that she did not return to the myth, but she is still active now, which is a bit beyond his expectation. The wolf eyes with a dead light took a deep look at the area where countless dead people appeared. Anubis's jackal head transformed into a human form again, and then turned and left the place. I hope we won't meet, Isis. There was no color in his emotions that could be called fear or fear. Anubis was confident enough. With his back to the disaster site, Anubis took a step. His figure gradually disappeared in the streets dyed orange by the flames of the explosion, and disappeared into the night. Italy. The suburbs of a small city. Looking around, the hills covered with early summer green stretch for several kilometers. Although it is a hill, it is still possible to build a golf course. However, a small river across the hills made the plan of building a golf course fail. However, this beautiful green field still attracted many people. For example, a young demon king who came back from Egypt. The tall and slender blonde handsome man squatting by the stream is the Sword King Tony. Right next to the stream flowing along the hills, the Sword King Tony is idly swinging his fishing rod, throwing the bait into the middle of the stream, trying to catch fish from this shallow stream. Why should I agree to you? The Sword King said to himself leisurely. No, not to himself, but to another person. Not far from the Sword King Tony is a beautiful blonde girl, about 12 or 13 years old. A head of golden curly hair falls from the waist, fitting the body to form an elegant curve. In addition, her beautiful face was so perfect that it gave people a subtle sense of unreality. She looked like a rare puppeteer who created the most perfect puppet in his career. However, the slightly glamorous black dress she wore did not match her age. Whether I win against Drake is my business. The price you paid is not enough for me to deal with Drake. While muttering a little bored, Sword King Tony raised the fishing rod and pulled up the hanging fishing line. The bait that was originally hung on it had disappeared. Besides, didn't you think that I would not do anything after getting the thing? As he said this, Sword King Tony stood up. Covering his strong body was a very casual floral shirt and shorts, like an island tourist from Hawaii. He just stared at the blonde girl in front of him, looking at the respectful expression on her face, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I, Guinevere, sincerely ask you. The blonde girl was still respectful. No matter what the final result is, I, Guinevere, will sincerely dedicate this thing to you. That would be great. Sword King Tony said with a smile. Although his character is relatively straightforward, he is not a fool. God ancestor Guinevere, the descendant of the serpent god, is regarded as a common enemy by the Council of Sages and Black Prince Drake. The dragon-slaying warriors will get the magic power from the dragons and snakes regarded as the object of conquest, and transform it into their own abilities in different forms. Although he believes that the opponents of the God-Slayer are only the god of disobedience and other God-Slayers, he will take anyone who is related to the Earth Mother God seriously. The Steel Hero restrains the Earth Mother God, and the God-Slayer is also restrained by the Steel Hero. The Steel Hero is also a mortal enemy of the God-Slayer, but this does not mean that the God-Slayer cannot become the Steel Hero. The power he obtained from Siegfried, the Steel Hero of the Nibelungen Light, and the magic sword he wielded, gave him certain steel qualities. The goddess Guinevere in front of him made him feel like an old enemy, just like the mythical beasts related to the Earth Mother that he had encountered several times before. You have already had a direct fight with the dragon, the god of earth and water, that is, the hero of the power of the magic beast, and Drake has so what? Tony ignored her and once again put on the bait and threw it into the stream. I'm not interested in Drake. The sheep visited the wolf's home and hired the wolf to kill another wolf. No, it should be to kill another sheep. Tony touched his chin without any stubble. Chapter 320, Sigurd's Sword. Guinevere was rejected in the end. What she offered was not to the taste of the Sword King Tony. Guinevere could not help but sigh. Ba Monk can't attract the Sword King either? She sighed and put away the token. Just at this moment, she wanted to use Sigurd's holy sword Gram as an exchange to let the Sword King deal with Drake. Sigurd, or Sigurd, is Siegfried, the prototype of Siegfried. But there are two of them. Siegfried's sword is the magic sword Ba Monk, the dragon-slaying magic sword Ba Monk, and the sword held by Sigurd is the sword in the tree Gran, the sword of victory. In mythology, the main god Odin inserted the sword in the tree Gram into the tree and asked everyone to try to pull out the sword, saying that the person who pulled out the sword would become a hero, and this sword was a gift given to him. But no one could pull it out, but only Sigurd pulled it out. Guinevere would look for this sword just to wait for the last king and Arthur to return. The sword in the stone was forged based on the sword in the tree, Gram. When King Arthur was seriously injured in the Battle of Camlan, he was taken to the fairy island of Avalon to sleep and heal his injuries, waiting for the time to wake up, and Guinevere firmly believed it. In order to wait for King Arthur to return, she made a lot of efforts. She has been reincarnated countless times, but she has no regrets. This has become a fatalistic obsession. Apart from that, she doesn't even have any meaning to survive. In order to prepare weapons for Arthur, she tried every means to find the sword in the stone. She couldn't find the sword in the stone, but she found the sword in the tree. She tried to use the sword in the tree to forge a second sword in the stone as a weapon for Arthur's return. However, she failed. No matter how many times she tried, her ability was not enough to forge the sword in the stone. The sword in the stone needs to be resmelted. To be able to forge the victory sword Gran given by Odin to Sigurd into a sword in the stone again, you need the power of forging, and you need the god of forging to do it. However, she can't find the god of disobedience, and the other party can't do such a thing. So, she turned her attention to the God-Slayer. Marquis Vauban got the judgment fire from Zerong, the Chinese god of fire, but it was obvious that Marquis Vauban could not help her. So she thought of Tony, the King of Swords. Tony, the King of Swords, got power from Vulcan, the god of fire, but unfortunately, he did not get the power of forging, but the power of civilization return. But it doesn't matter. Tony, the King of Swords, has the silver hand of the god King Nuada, and can even forge a magic sword out of thin air. Give it to Tony, the King of Swords, and guide him at the right time, and there will be a chance to get a new sword in this stone from him in the future. She is Guinevere. Anyone who has heard of the legend of King Arthur will undoubtedly think of King Arthur through her, and then think of the sword in the stone. Maybe the result will be obtained soon. Even if it doesn't work, there will be a lot of time to calculate in the future. But her calculations have failed now. Tony, the King of Swords, has no interest in the holy sword Gram. She concealed her purpose and packaged the holy sword Gram as a reward. However, even after several disguised struggles, she helplessly gave up the request to make a move and only gave the Sword of Victory to Tony, but he did not accept it. It is necessary to use other plans to give the Sword of Victory to Tony. The frustrated god ancestor Guinevere decided to keep trying. Britain, Alice's mansion. Black Prince Drake looked at the princess in front of him. "Don't look at me. Although I know I am beautiful, perverted behavior is not okay. Even if you are the king." "Disgusting woman." Black Prince Drake raised his eyebrows. This woman stabbed himself a few times with every word. She was really long-winded. "You are really unlovable." The first time they met was when she was 12 years old. However, from that time on, she had no cuteness. That was a sickly woman who offered to bribe and negotiate with the Demon King at the age of only 12. Thinking of the unpleasant experience of the first encounter, Drake couldn't help but be shocked. After he became the king, established the royal factory, and deposed the Council of Sages, this woman came to negotiate. Now that I think about it, only a woman like this could become the speaker of the Council of Sages at such a young age. Although the Council of Sages was against him, his relationship with Alice was not so stiff. They were acquaintances who were both enemies and friends. "Let's get down to business. Do you know what Guinevere did again?" Drake changed the subject a little abruptly. "Of course it was for the legendary King Arthur." "You have been the Demon King for too long. Have you become so forgetful?" Alice's elegant tone was thorny. She still spoke unkindly to the Demon King, who broke into the door without any appointment and eavesdropped on the conversation between girls. Drake suppressed his emotions and continued calmly. "Arthur Pendragon, the Eternal King, the hero king of the Red Dragon, the leader of the Knights of the Round Table, possessed a noble and just character. He pulled out the sword in the stone and obtained the Sword of Broken Steel. With the assistance of the great wizard Merlin, he led the Knights of the Round Table to make England rise and repel the invading Saxons and Picts. However, he was seduced by the witch Morgan, and had an illegitimate son Mordred. Because of his guilt, he did not notice the illicit relationship between his wife Guinevere and his subordinate Lancelot, which eventually led to the division of the Knights of the Round Table and the collapse of the kingdom he ruled for various reasons. Finally, he was seriously injured in Camlin Hill and returned to the elven land of Avalon to recuperate. As long as England is in trouble, he will appear again to save England. Drake told the story of King Arthur concisely, and then said something extremely ironic with indifference and expressionlessness. He was an excellent commander on the battlefield and a warrior, but as a politician, monarch, and husband, he was at the lowest level. I don't know what those people who want such an incompetent man to be resurrected are thinking. If it were me, I would definitely not want him to be resurrected. As a British, Drake is different from most people and sneers at King Arthur. The most important thing is, did King Arthur really exist? Hearing this, Alice just knocked on the table. It doesn't matter whether he existed or not. The story of King Arthur itself is pieced together. Alice knocked on the table. In Celtic mythology, one of Ireland's most famous legendary heroes, Finn McCool, the leader of the Fianna, King of Erin, was a man of noble character. His soon-to-be married wife was having an affair with his subordinate Diarmaid. People believed that this Irish hero was sleeping in a cave under Dublin, and the other surviving Fianna knights were sleeping around him, and they would wake up once Ireland was in trouble. The sword in the stone was based on Sigurd's sword Gram in the tree. As people who were also searching for the Holy Grail, the two discussed the Arthurian legend of the origin of the Holy Grail, which was very exciting. Chapter 321 King Arthur Investigation. Finn, the King of Ailinn, is not only the prototype of part of the legend of King Arthur, but also the prototype of the myths of many parts of Europe as an early figure in Celtic mythology. Alice flipped through the books on the table. This was not the first time the two of them had discussed the myth of King Arthur. The existence of the ancestor of the gods, Guinevere, was the biggest obstacle in their search for the Holy Grail. They even speculated that the Holy Grail was in the hands of the ancestor of the gods, Guinevere, whether King Arthur existed or not. Needless to say, he is just a fictional character. However, a large number of European historians and archaeologists have repeatedly confirmed that he is a real person who was used as a model. At present, there is no actual historical evidence to prove that King Arthur ever existed. Alice said, picking up a report that looked quite old from the table. In medieval legends, he was a 6th century king who supported Christianity and led the British tribes to defeat the Saxon invaders. He died in the Battle of Camlan around 539 and was buried in Glastonbury. Black Prince Drake shook his head. However, Britain at that time was not an independent country. In terms of geography, it still belonged to the territory of the Roman Empire. Although it was a borderland that was not valued by the Roman Empire itself, no emperor would allow the nobles in the territory to proclaim themselves kings. And Alice glanced at Drake and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. The people who lived in England at that time are now referred to as Celts. The descendants of the Saxons who threatened them from outside are the modern British. The Celts who were expelled by the Saxons fled to modern Wales and Ireland. The relationship between the Irish and the Scottish is not good, but even the countries in East Asia know a little bit about it. Hearing this, Drake couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Yes, we are the winners. If King Arthur really existed, we are the descendants of King Arthur's enemies. Today's Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Cornwall in England and Britain and France are all Celts. The ancestor of the gods, Guinevere, did not live in Britain, but in Brittany, France. As he spoke, he picked up a history book that recorded the history of British kings. The legend of King Arthur became popular in Wales in the 9th century. In the version at that time, Arthur was a general who commanded the British army, and he was just an ordinary general of the Roman Empire, without any great achievements. The legend of King Arthur was widely spread in the 12th century by bards who traveled all over Europe. The recognized masterpiece is The Death of King Arthur around the 15th century. European scholars are more concerned about whether King Arthur exists than they are, especially the British royal family. He opened the list of kings in the royal family and looked at the names and brief descriptions of the kings on it. In the 12th century, after the bards widely spread the legend of King Arthur, at the same time, the Plantagenet dynasty began, and the British royal family began to publicize their family's relationship with King Arthur. In order to rule Britain, they loudly claimed that they were descendants of King Arthur, and even fabricated their own family tree. When talking about this, a mocking smile appeared on his face. Since the dramatic expedition in the 11th century, the British royal family has almost all been conquerors from foreign countries. Forget about whether they are descendants of King Arthur. They are not descendants of the British at all. Great Britain, even if there really is a so-called King Arthur, the current Britain has nothing to do with King Arthur. Looking at his victorious expression, Alice's face looked a little strange. She is also British, and of course she is not a descendant of the Celts at that time. But the legend of King Arthur is something that modern British people are proud of. It doesn't matter whether they are descendants of the Celts at that time. What is important is Britain, not Celtic or England or Scotland. However, this is not the problem we need to face. Whether King Arthur is a real person or not is not important. The god of disobedience does not distinguish between real and unreal people. Alice continued. What we need to consider is what kind of strength the other party will have if we find the Holy Grail but encounter King Arthur, who is not a myth and appears in the world. Hearing this, Drake nodded and said, "There is no doubt that King Arthur will be a hero of steel based on the countless battles he has experienced in the legend. A large number of battle experiences are steel. The god of war, the god of war, the god of war, the gods born for battle, and those with various battle legends will all have the characteristics of steel. After countless battles, their own existence is a sword forged by hammers. For the God Slayer, the hero of steel is a mortal enemy. When facing the God Slayer, the hero of steel will suddenly increase in strength. This is why less than 100 years after the God Slayer, the Sword King Tony has the strength comparable to or even equivalent to the strongest Marquis of Vauban among the God Slayers. Tony the Sword King is a God Slayer and a steel hero. As the warrior god, God King Nuada has a very high purity of steel. As the first god killed by Tony the Sword King, although Tony did not completely inherit it, he also possessed some. Then, Siegfried, who was specially summoned by Marquis Vauban for the steel quality, was also killed by Tony first, and Tony's steel quality was further enhanced. Then, he obtained the power of Vulcan, the god of forging and fire, who also belonged to the steel camp. Although the quality of the steel he took was not particularly strong, Tony the Sword King himself was a warrior immersed in battle, especially sword fighting. After repeated battles, Tony the Sword King's own steel quality was further enhanced. King Arthur, as the hero of steel, should be at least as strong as the King of Swords, Drake said, and then suddenly remembered something. By the way, in addition to saying that Lady Elsa has arrived in Vienna, the witch from Sardinia should know something, right? As he said that, he looked at Alice with a scrutinizing look in his eyes. If I remember correctly, you deliberately hinted at my existence and changed the name to let the other party notice this matter, so that the other party would leave so quickly. Hearing this, Alice couldn't help but stare. Can't you be more tactful? Why do you always treat ladies so badly? Shouldn't this kind of thing be known but not said? But forget it, with Drake's character, if she doesn't say it, Drake will definitely go directly to Sardinia and ask directly. Sighing, Alice said, I asked her to investigate the details of the ancient legend of Lancelot among the witches. Lancelot. Chapter 322, Pillar of the Underworld. I typed it wrong. It should be Chapter 65. While the Godslayers were doing different things, Qin Ren was trying to do one thing at this moment: create new creatures. Why did he have this idea? After he gave the soul light balls of several demon gods to the snake and 32 to devour, he gave Apep's soul to 32 to devour. After devouring Apep's soul, 32's body became even bigger and more evil. It can be said that 32 is now a thorough demon god. As 32's strength gradually grew, Qin Ren also slowly realized one thing, that is, what is the trick between 32, purgatory and his own existence. Before, he collected various yellow sand gold coins to upgrade his level, and used yellow sand gold coins to upgrade the levels of 32 in purgatory. It is better to say unlocking than upgrading. His real body is in this yellow sand world. What is acting outside the yellow sand world is just the incarnation of his will. The actual use of those souls collected is to unlock the control quota of power, which is the so-called breaking the seal. Break the seal on him. Before, he himself did not realize it at all, but now, he has a feeling. He originally has very strong power. He does not know how much power he has, but after being promoted to sea level, the vast earth power, let alone sea level, feels like A level. However, the power he can use in the outside world is very little. The one who has been acting in the outside world has always been just an incarnation of will. His body has been sealed in this yellow sand world from beginning to end. No, it is not quite right to say that it is sealed. It feels more like a feeling of not being mature. He did not feel any strong seal. To be more precise, the yellow sand world is a barrier that isolates him from the outside world, like an eggshell. Why does he have this feeling? Because his power has grown too fast, as if someone is deliberately pushing his maturity. If he had grown slowly over hundreds or thousands of years, he would not have this feeling, but after coming to the world of Godslayer, after obtaining Ike's time and space rupture skills and Hual's power, two time-related abilities, his wonderful intuition has also increased. After the main body grew to this point, he also proved the source of the system's power from another direction. The fact that he could restore his health and mana in just a few minutes was not because of some power transmitted to him, but because his will incarnation drew power from the main body. When the will incarnation was still weak, he didn't feel anything, but when fighting Horus, he exhausted his mana several times at D and C levels, and he also felt the power of the main body being drawn and poured into the will incarnation. The amount drawn was almost the same as the amount consumed. 32 in Purgatory actually also obtained power from his main body. When the level of 32 in Purgatory was upgraded to E level, they obtained the maximum amount of mana from him, which was equivalent to E level. In short, 32 in Purgatory were, in a sense, an extension of his power, almost like his clone. No, it seems wrong to say clone. It should be an extension of limbs. This feeling is a bit strange. The existence of 32 in Purgatory is like his clone, like his extended limbs, and like some strange thing. But no matter what, their lives, strength, everything about them, are all controlled by themselves. And constantly defeating and killing enemies is actually similar to a kind of ritual. Through killing and defeating as a sacrifice, offering to him what he felt before, that after setting up the 9 pillars, it would have a great effect on him, is absolutely correct. If he can successfully set up the 9 pillars, then he will be able to get closer to the truth. What exactly is he? What exactly is the system? Who is pushing him to grow? What is the purpose? As for whether it is an enemy or a friend, there is no need to think about it. If someone who can do so many things really does something wrong to him, then he would have no room for resistance long ago, so why do so many twists and turns to mess with him? However, there is no doubt that the other party wants to achieve something by making him grow. All kinds of vague things that were not even connected before. He had a subtle feeling after he obtained Ike's skills, and after he was promoted to sea level, his body became the entire land of the Yellow Sand world, and after he obtained the prophetic power of Hual, it became clear. Although I don't know what the other party's purpose is, I just need to know that building 9 pillars will benefit me. The 9 Egyptian pillars do not include the pillar of demon, but include the sun pillar represented by purgatory now, Ra. Next, follow the map. Shu, the god of wind and air, is probably the pillar of wind. The pillar of rain, moisture, and disorder, is probably the pillar of rain or the pillar of water. And then there is Jeb's pillar of earth, Nut's pillar of sky, Osiris's pillar of the underworld or the pillar of the underworld, Isis's pillar of life or the pillar of magic, Set's pillar of war, the pillar of sandstorm, and the pillar of the outer realm, Nephthys's pillar of rest. What Qin wants to do is to use the soul light balls of the gods of disobedience who have corresponding powers to create new subordinates one by one, and now he has the following materials: the soul light balls of 3 of the 4 sons of Canopus, the god of funerals; the soul light ball of Horus, the god of kingship, king and death. These 2 elements can be used to create the nether pillar representing the Hades, Osiris. Qin Ren did not make purgatory in the same way as he did at the beginning, crudely and without any processing. He needed to process the memory and cognition first, and set the personality, so as not to change it later. Qin Ren did it as soon as he said it. He took out the Millennium Scepter and used the power obtained from the demon god Dantalon to modify the memory information in the soul light ball and reset the personality. Loyalty, there is no doubt. Then as for the personality, as the god of death and the Hades, you should be meticulous. As for the image, just make it according to the image of the dog-headed Nasus. By the way, set the status. Purgatory is the eldest son, the snake is the eldest daughter, and this one will be the second son. Qin Ren took out the Millennium Scale, put the souls of the 3 sons of Canopus and the soul of Horus on the 2 trays of the Millennium Scale respectively, and then injected power. With the surge of wonderful light, the 4 souls merged together in the wonderful power. And the name, called Nasus? No, it's not quite right, and it sounds weird. So let's just use the name of Nasus's ultimate move. The moment the new god with a wolf's head and a human body opened its first tray of consciousness, it heard a vast, grand, and majestic voice, "Descend." P.S. I originally wanted to call it Samsara. After all, there is no end to the cycle of confusion and lying down. This time I'm confused, and next time I'm lying down. Laugh. Chapter 323, Pluto's Frozen Land, Weaving Myths. Advent. This name actually feels quite ambiguous. As a verb, it is also difficult to pronounce when called. Qin Ren certainly did not consider this as a name. The name he decided on was Frozen Earth, because Qin Ren was going to fuse a fused equipment with this new god. And the equipment Qin Ren chose was the newly fused Frozen Earth crown not long ago. It was different from the previous time when he placed the Ascension remnants in the Yellow Sand world, and the Ascension remnants automatically resonated with Purgatory and lifted the Sun Wheel pillar. When the Frozen Earth crown appeared in the Yellow Sand world, the Yellow Sand world did not react. But Qin Ren now has a way. On the trays on both sides of the dark golden Millennium Scale, the still hazy soul and the Frozen Earth crown flew to the trays on both sides. And the apparition position is the one that rose after killing the 3 funeral gods. The next moment, a wolf-headed human figure with a frost blue body and a dark blue crown on his head emerged from the Frozen Earth crown. Then, endless quicksand surged up from the boundless land of the Yellow Sand world and flew towards the frozen crown. The surging yellow sand engulfed the frozen crown, forming a huge yellow sand crown. The frozen crown seemed to be embedded in the inside of the yellow sand crown. Moreover, after the surging yellow sand wrapped the frozen crown, it was infected with icy cold and froze instantly. Then, the frozen crown was lifted up from the ground by the yellow sand. A giant pillar formed by the condensation of yellow sand and gravel rose from under the yellow sand and kept rising until it disappeared beyond the horizon. It was like a pillar connecting heaven and earth, a golden giant pillar burning with flames. The sun wheel pillar, a black giant pillar spreading evil, the demon god pillar. Real name: Frozen Earth, race, ghost, bloodline, blood of Hades. Attributes: all attributes G, not included in skill bonus. Attributes and skills are linked to the attributes of the Frozen Earth crown. 1. Frozen Earth Pluto, a powerful spirit body that merged with the Frozen Earth crown through the Millennium Scale, and whose growth relies on the Frozen Earth crown. 2. Pseudo Pillar Middle. Netherworld Pillar? 3. Pseudo Middle. Netherworld God, the only passive skill. Netherworld Frozen Earth. After being activated, it continuously releases the breath of frozen earth, transforming the surrounding into netherworld frozen earth. When operating in the frozen earth and netherworld environment, all its attributes are improved. The only passive skill: Power of Hades. Death attribute attacks cause triple damage. Ice attribute attacks cause double damage. Immune to G and below death attribute attacks, and the power of ice attribute attacks received is halved. The only active skill: Coffin of the Wrongly Dead. Resurrect the dead as frozen earth skeletons for control, and the frozen earth skeletons' attacks have frost effects and provide deceleration. The only active skill: Frozen Earth Ghost. Convert the spirit into a frozen earth ghost for control. The frozen earth ghost's attack has a frost effect, provides deceleration, can possess other targets, and occupy containers. When the cold and dead breath began to spread from the position of the frozen earth crown to the entire column, the name Qin Ren had just given him, Frozen Earth, also appeared on the column. A wolf-headed god wearing a frozen earth crown appeared on this netherworld pillar in the form of a relief mural. At this time, 3 pillars were erected in the yellow sand world. Purgatory with an indifferent look and 32 with a little curiosity emerged from their respective pillars and looked at this new brother. He is Frozen Earth. Qin Ren, who was already very familiar with how to do more beastile operations as a superior, did not give any explanation. Before he was born, his consciousness was already filled with settings and memories. The blue wolf eyes lit up slightly, and he still greeted Purgatory and 32 meticulously. Then, he knelt on one knee and lowered his head. Supreme Lord, in the memory Qin Ren said for him. Qin Ren's position was the creator of the yellow sand world, the god of creation. And Qin Ren also planned to develop a wave of myths in the yellow sand world. That's right, he wanted to create a wave of myths in the yellow sand world and weave myths. And the gods he created were the original gods of this world. In the God Killer world, after collecting the memories of countless magicians, Qin Ren remembered one thing, that was about Guinevere and King Arthur. In the God Killer world, since about the 15th century, there has been a saying that King Arthur is the king of the past, present, and future, which has elevated King Arthur from a legendary figure to the height of a god, man-made god. If Qin Ren remembered correctly, it was Guinevere who led this matter. In the world of the God Slayer, myths are woven by humans, and gods are also created by ancient people. So, if we actively spread a certain myth, can we artificially create a certain myth and create the corresponding god? After he was promoted to the eye of the earth and became the earth, a huge ruined city had risen in the yellow sand world. However, there was no living person in this city. There were only countless sand soldiers condensed from quicksand, standing like statues in the ruined city. And looking at those statues, and then looking at the hundreds of thousands of soul light balls scattered throughout the yellow sand world, especially after the entire Greenwich district was massacred, there were hundreds of thousands of soul light balls. As long as you have a little imagination, you will come up with the idea of stuffing soul light balls into sand soldier statues. Qin people are no exception. After setting up this netherworld pillar that looks like an icicle, Qin people came up with the idea of weaving myths. Then this city is the city of the Middle Ages. named Ascension, and this is the home of the gods. With the attitude of permafrost, purgatory, and 32 listening respectfully, the Qin people looked at the huge ruined city surrounded by 3 pillars and gave it a name. The next moment, the Qin people used the huge power of their own body in the yellow sand world to lift this huge city to a height of 1,000 meters. Rumble, the Qin people, who are the entire land, just moved their limbs and easily accomplished this task. In Egyptian mythology, there is a home of gods, Heliopolis, which is now Cairo, and in Greek mythology, there is Mount Olympus. In Christian mythology, there is Mount Paradise, where gods and angels gather. In celestial mythology, there is the heavenly court. Whether it is polytheism or monotheism, many myths have a place where gods gather. Permafrost, purgatory, and 32 watched this change and were extremely shocked. The next moment, the Qin people used the power of the demon god Dantalin, supplemented by the power of the Millennium Scepter. The light of the scepter shone on the Book of Mirrors, and the life memories in nearly 10,000 soul light balls appeared. What the Qin people did was to modify them in batches. After cleaning the memories of some of the soul light balls, the Qin people injected these soul light balls into the sand soldier sculptures in the Ascension City. The next moment, these sand soldiers had divine light in their eyes. Chapter 324, The End of Winter. The identity that the Qin people had carved into their consciousness was the people of the Ascension. After these sand soldiers got the souls, they opened their eyes, and their hazy vision gradually became clear. The memories and cognition that had been reset by the Qin people became clear, and they realized their identities. We are the guardians of the home of the gods, the city of the Middle Ages, and the Ascension City, the sons of the gods, and the people of the Ascension. The Ascension people shouted loudly, "They are not flesh and blood, but bodies made of quicksand and gravel, just like golems." After doing such a great deed, the Qin people did not stop, but continued to operate. The pillar of the demon god, the pillar of the sun, and the pillar of the netherworld. Using the Ascension City as a template, the Qin people once again forged a city on the outside of the sun pillar in the direction of the line connecting the Ascension City and the sun pillar. The Qin people gathered their magic power, and the winged dragon appeared, spewing brilliant flames from its mouth, burning the earth. However, when the light and flame surged, countless golden gravels and quicksands gathered and surged, condensing into buildings. The city in the flames is called Sunwheel and is ruled by the Sun-wheeled dragon. The Qin people's grand and vast voice rang out over the entire land. The purgatory cultivated and created by the Qin people, the huge golden dragon, crawled on its back and lowered its head, respectfully saluted the Qin people, and accepted the responsibility, "Your will." And the next moment, the Qin people continued to match the corresponding people to this city in the flames. After taking a look at the purgatory and the golden dragon burning with golden flames, like the sun, the Qin people took another part of the soul light ball, and then the winged dragon condensed by magic power sprayed countless fireballs, landed on the earth, and merged with the soul light ball. The next moment, these dazzling golden flame fireballs developed their own consciousness and turned into lives of different forms, some in human form, some in dragon form, and even in the form of fireballs. But there is one thing, that they are all the same. They are all lives in the form of light and flame. People in the flame. We are the sons of the sun, the sons of light, and the people in the flame, the defenders of the city in the flame and the sun-wheel city. Our master is the sun-wheeled dragon. Countless people in the flame shouted the same cry in unison when they were born. Looking at this scene, even though Purgatory, who had become a completely noble and indifferent god in the Qin people's setting, could not help but flash a trace of fluctuation in his eyes. Under the instruction of the Qin people, Purgatory flapped its golden wings covered with golden flames and flew to this new city to accept the worship of the people in the flame, and the ascended people in the medieval city and the ascended city. Watching the rise of the city in the flame, watching the actions of the sun-wheeled dragon Purgatory and the people in the flame, these new lives could not help but worship, and the Qin people did not stop. Using the ascended city as a template, the Qin people forged another city on the outside of the demon pillar from the direction of the line connecting the ascended city and the demon pillar. The Qin people's magic power surged, and a giant snake full of destruction, chaos, and darkness emerged in the yellow sand world. The Qin people used the power they had taken from Apep. The black giant snake roared to the sky, making a roar that was not like a snake's voice. The next moment, a surging black tide surged out of the giant snake's body. The heart-pounding and black tide corroded the earth, forming a black land that was corroded and destroyed by the black tide. Then boom! Exclamation mark! With a terrifying sound of an earthquake, quicksand and gravel surged, and a huge city rose from the ground, as if it rose from the black tide. Just like the golden color that symbolized the sun was chosen when building the city in flame, the Qin people also made some special choices in the use of materials. The whole city is black. And, just like the pillar of the demon god and the pillar of the sun will stand on both sides of the Ascension City in a straight line, the city in flame and this city are located on the dark side of the Ascension City, located in the shadow of the Ascended City, which was lifted up by a huge mountain. The city of the demon tide is called End and is ruled by the End Serpent. Qin Ren assigned this city to 32. Your will. 32 looked at this city that made her feel comfortable, and a hint of excitement appeared on her charming face. Qin Ren did not wait any longer and continued to operate. The countless soul light balls scattered throughout the yellow sand world surged and gathered, and flew to this dark city. With the mana surging, Qin Ren used the soul light balls and the evil demon breath to create new people for this city with the breath of the demon god as the prototype, supplemented by the power of Apep and the demon god, with countless evil black and soul light balls like tides merging. The next moment, one by one, lives full of evil and darkness were born. Just like the shapes of the people and the flames are mostly different, the postures of these new lives are also strange. Some were like half man and half spider, some were not human at all, some were like octopuses, and some had snake tails. After they became conscious, they shouted in unison, "We are the sons of darkness, the sons of night, and the people of the Darkborn, the guardians of the city of Demon Tide and the city of the End. Our Lord is the Serpent of the End, the Darkborn." The Qin people gave them names with a bit of evil taste, and they also planned to create a few characters like Antrox, Last, and Vars in the city of Demon Tide in the future. When the Darkborn shouted Serpent of the End, 32 immediately transformed from a charming humanoid into a seven-headed giant snake, and the snake body moved in a winding way, entering the center of the Darkborn city. And finally, the Qin people turned their attention to the frozen soil. After he finished casting the Ascension City, the Sun Wheel City, and the City of the End, the frozen soil pillar, that is, the pillar of the Netherworld, had completely turned into a huge ice pillar, exuding extreme coldness. Taking Feisheng City as the base point, the Sun Pillar is on the right side of Feisheng City, that is, on the east side. The Demon Pillar is on the west side of Feisheng City, and the Nether Pillar is located in the south, slightly southwest. It is right next to the Demon Pillar. In a sense, it fits the definition of the underworld. Under the gaze of Tundra, the Qin people once again used Feisheng City as a template, and in the direction of the line connecting Feisheng City and the Demon Pillar, on the outside of the Demon Pillar, they once again forged a city. This time, the Qin people once again gathered their strength and turned into a frost blue giant wolf. The Qin people released the power they got from the three funeral gods, exuding a deadly breath. The next moment, the frost blue giant wolf spewed out frost, turning a large area into an ice prison. The Qin people manipulated the form of the ice prison and forged a city. The Nether City is called Winter and is ruled by the Pluto Tundra. Your will. Tundra followed suit, kneeling on one knee and lowering his head. Chapter 325 Genesis. Countless soul light balls surged and gathered, flying to this netherworld city made of frost. The mana filled with chill merged with the soul light balls, and in the next moment, blue frost lives were born. Just like the people of the flame and the Darkborn, the postures of these new lives were also strange. However, most of them were similar to wolf or werewolf, half human and half wolf. Frozen Earth was not a wolf head like Anubis, but a real werewolf. It had a wolf head and a human body, and its hands and feet were covered with blue wolf hair. To put it in a more vivid way, it was a fusion of Warwick and Nasus, standing straighter than Warwick and having more hair than Nasus. In addition to the giant wolf and werewolf life, there were also bears and bear men, most of which were orcs. After they became conscious, They shouted in unison, "We are the sons of the underworld, the people of winter, and the spirits of the frozen earth, the guardians of the city of the underworld and the city of frozen earth. Our Lord is the king of the frozen earth." Frozen earth also entered the city of frozen earth when the people of winter shouted loudly. Since then, the Qin people have built 4 cities: the Ascension City, which represents the hometown of the gods; the Flame City, which represents the Sun Pillar; the Demon Tide City, which represents the Demon Pillar; the Frozen Earth City, which represents the Pillar of the Underworld; the Ascension People, the Flame People, the Dark People, and the Winter People. These are the first group of people that the Qin people used to weave the myths of the Yellow Sand world. If the language they used was English, it would be more inconsistent. Although this is more convenient, the Qin people always feel that it is not right. Use Chinese? No, he doesn't want to use the language and characters of the Earth world. He wants the Yellow Sand world to develop a new language. After all, if the language and writing of a world are all from the outside world, it always feels a bit wrong. So, what form should be used as the main language form? Choose phonetic writing or ideographic writing. There are many kinds of phonetic writing. Among the ideographic writing, the more well-known ones in the world are cuneiform writing and oracle bone writing, and the well-known ideographic writing that is still in use today is Chinese characters. No, emoticons are also ideographic writing, which is more well-known than Chinese characters in a sense. Choosing ideographic writing, starting from the pictorial form of oracle bone writing, there are 2 ways of development. First, like most ideographic writing in the world, they all developed into phonetic writing. Second, like Chinese characters. Although ideographic writing and phonetic writing have their own advantages and disadvantages, for the Qin people, phonetic writing is better. After all, it is easier to create a phonetic writing than an ideographic writing. Using a small number of letters to record the task of language is easy to learn and use in terms of quantity, easy to sort, and objectively operable. Just slightly modify some forms and modify the order of letters in the combination to form a new meaning. If it is an ideographic script, the amount of glyphs required is very large. The Latin letters used in English and French, the Cyrillic letters used in Russian, and the Arabic letters used in Arabic and Uyghur are all phonetic scripts. As for how to transform it, it is also a very simple thing for the Qin people. After all, among the people he killed, there is naturally no shortage of people from various countries and linguists. There is no need to create it completely out of thin air. Just refer to the Cyrillic letters, Latin letters, and Arabic to construct a new set of alphabetic glyphs and grammar. Before building the 4 divine cities, the Qin people had already created the characters. The default language of all the new lives he created is this new language, and the naming is also very simple and crude. Yellow Sand letters, Yellow Sand characters. The reason why the Qin people created new characters is not for anything else, but to weave myths in the Yellow Sand world. In the center of the Ascension City, in a huge temple-like building, the Yellow Sand surged and formed a huge book. And on the giant book, starting from the first page, columns of characters gradually emerged, from left to right. This abnormality was discovered by an ascended citizen. After the ascended citizen was born, he witnessed the scene of the 4 god cities falling to the earth, and his heart was surging. After the great scene of the gods appearing in the world, the Creator, the Supreme Will and the 3 gods disappeared, and the 3 gods returned to the 3 pillars outside the ascended city. He didn't know what he should do, so he came to the temple in the center of the ascended city. Although he didn't know why, he just wanted to come here. In the dark, he felt that he needed to come here. Then, he saw this huge book. Inexplicably, the curiosity in his heart made him approach the book. There was a row of words on the cover of the book. The ascended citizen knew these words, and these words were what he was born to understand. Genesis. Then, he saw the words written on it. In the beginning, there was no form, no chaos, and the abyss was endless. There was only him. He said, "Let there be a place to live," and there was a world. He saw that he was the only one in the world and felt lonely, so he said, "I want another like me." Then, a god burning with fire and emitting light came out of his body and said, "Supreme Will, my father, why did you create me?" He had his first name, the Supreme Will. He said, "I don't know, I want something else to accompany me, the god burning with fire said. Then you need to give me a name, he said. Then call it Purgatory. The god burning with fire said again. There are only one of me, but it's still too few. He thought so too. And then, from his shadow, the black god walked out. The black god said, "Ah, my father, my brother, I also want a name," he said. "You can be called the End." The god burning with fire and the black god asked together, "Where should we live?" He said, "One of you is on my side, and the other is on my side." The god burning with fire and the black god stood on both sides of him. The side where the god of fire stood, everything became bright. He said it was day. The side where the god of black stood, everything disappeared. He said it was night. P.S. Originally, the prototype of the winter people was the large group in Freljord, but after the setting was written, I realized that the winter people, especially the werewolf-shaped winter people, were similar to the NPCs in the FGO Permafrost Empire. But after all, as long as the setting is a cold place, it will inevitably involve fur and other warm-keeping settings, which is also a very classic and old-fashioned setting. PS2. This kind of myth is quite exciting to write, the myth of the ancestor of Qin Ren. I was super impressed. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.